We're live. We're rolling.
We're rolling.
Sitcom references coming up as well. A lot of question marks in life. The Perfect Strangers theme song, being there for us, is not one of them. There it is. After a pretty quick turnaround, NFL draft last night, first round, I think lived up to the hype and then some. And here we are again this morning. Nothing's going to stop Bill Gunter now.
Big question is, after we ended the stream last night, did you stay up for the remainder of the draft?
Absolutely, I did.
Oh, good job.
Well, and the highlight on the back end to me was a couple of running backs taken in the first round, which is always an interesting move these days in the NFL draft, especially with Travis Etienne going with his buddy Trevor Lawrence to the Jacksonville Jaguars with I guess they went back to back. Is that how that went at 24 and 25? Because Najee Harris off with the Pittsburgh Steelers there at number 24, and then it was back-to-back running backs for first time they were taken at all, 24 and 25. Najee Harris going to the Steelers again from Alabama, and then Travis Etienne making Clemson the first ever team to have their quarterback and running back taken by the same team in the first round. That really had kind of revitalized things. Kadarius Toney at number 20 was a good skill guy. But after Mac Jones went at 15, we ended our little 107.5 The Bar live stream last night. Appreciate everybody that joined. Good times for sure. And it was interesting to see Patrick in his glory. Patrick, the former intern, Patrick, our NFL draft analyst, will be on this afternoon from 12 until 4, helping to fill in for Pearson Fowler. So you'll get all kinds of analysis from him today, maybe an extra hour by my math, but you won't hear it here on the morning show. What'd you think of everything you saw last night, Bill?
I can only speak for myself. You can speak for yourself, but we're not the draft enthusiast that Patrick Perrette is. So it was neat. It was more about what we did with the draft cast and doing the live cast. But as far as the draft itself, yeah, I mean, look, what I was surprised at the 49ers taking Trey Lance. Again, I don't know what the word surprised is supposed to mean when I say that, but I was surprised at that. I was surprised at the Panthers, who we had thought offense all along. We debated yesterday an offensive tackle versus a receiver if the opportunity to take a receiver was there. Yet they end up taking J.C. Horn, which was really cool, really neat. And then after that, I guess the Patriots are going to go for their quarterback of the future in Mac Jones. You mentioned Travis Etienne going to Jacksonville, so Urban Meyer, who is very familiar with Etienne, who's very familiar with Trevor Lawrence, who's very familiar with that whole Clemson program and how they are coached up, obviously showing to me a sign of respect by taking 2 Clemson players in the first round, offensive players. I talked about that yesterday with Trevor Lawrence and wondering just how good of a career he would have, not because of his talent, but because of his coach and the weapons around him. Will they instantly upgrade their running back position? Although Patrick was pretty high on their running back position yesterday. So, yeah, we'll see. We'll see. It's one of those things that's fun to talk about. It gives us something here the last weekend in April. But I'm not the enthusiast or the analyst that Patrick is.
And I guess we're burying the lead from the Gamecock perspective for sure. Number 8, Carolina Panthers, first defensive player taken, latest defensive player taken first ever in an NFL draft in Gamecock, J.C. Horn. Not going far away. Just right up the road. The Panthers said they had him number 1 on the board. I mentioned it last time a couple of times. Can you imagine us having projected this just the day after J.C. Horn decided to opt out for the last few games? We all know Horn is a good play. I think his career at Carolina was a wildly interesting one, just because a lot of the ways that we just evaluate corners specifically are how many interceptions does he have? I mean, he didn't have one for forever, and then nearly single-handedly won the Auburn game with a couple and causing one more, and then that was about it as far as highlights go. Anyway, Bill, what do you make of J.C. Horn now, Carolina Panther, pick number 8?
Well, again, we thought J.C. Horn would go high. We thought he'd probably be number 10. So I don't really look at it from the J.C. Horn perspective as much as I look at it from the Carolina Panthers perspective of taking him instead of an offensive player, instead of taking a tackle, whether it was Rashawn Slater or the opportunity to take a wide receiver there. I think we kind of debated that last night. So J.C. Horn, again, we knew he'd go high. Our expectation was 10, I think. I think Patrick had it set at 11.5, as we thought he would probably go 10 at that time to the Cowboys. Cowboys ended up trading with the Philadelphia Eagles. But Devontae Smith was obviously there to be had, and Rashawn Slater. So you had 2 offensive players that we thought might be able to help out Sam Darnold, and instead they go defense. So maybe leaning toward Matt Rule. And I wish this is where we need Patrick, but I think that's now 8 straight players. I believe they took 7 defensive players in the draft last year. It was all defense for the Panthers. I believe this would be number 8.
We'll look that thing up for you. Trey hits us up on the Facebook live stream this morning, our video live stream sponsored by Buford Landing, and he had his buddy, our youngest caller, in on the live stream last night, Sean. He said, wow, Sean said that last night. Horn to the Panthers. Called it. Sonny says there's a lot of Clemson Jaguar fans this morning. I don't know about it. I guess it makes sense. Your quarterback and your running back end up going to the same franchise. Maybe there will be a lot of Jaguar fans now with Clemson Orange as well. Appreciate you guys joining us. However, you'd like to dial us up in the mornings. Facebook live stream, like I mentioned, the YouTube live stream up and rolling. We're on Twitter as well. The station handle at 1075 Game. The app rolling on the audio stream as well as over the air. Jim Jensen holding things down, producing in the Herndon Chevrolet Studios in downtown Columbia. Again, Patrick Perrette will be along this afternoon, helping fill in for Pearson Fowler. Richard hits us up on the Cool Care Heating and Air text line at 803-404-6100. Congrats to J.C. Horn. That was a shocker. Richard says he wanted Kyle Trask to go to his Bears, but definitely okay with Justin Fields. Go Bears. And that leads us to our resident Bears fan, and Jen Jensen, watching it go down. It was interesting to see the Bears jump up. So that's when you first got some trade momentum in the draft at number 10, where you had the interdivision trade, the Eagles jumping up 2 spots to number 10, the Cowboys trading with the Cowboys for the 12th pick. And after the Eagles take Devontae Smith at 10, the Bears jumped all the way up from number 20 to number 11 and gave up some significant capital, I guess is how these NFL draft analysts put it, to go get their quarterback of the future in Justin Fields. And I think at the time, Jen, maybe a little overwhelmed with what was going on, or just taking it all in last night as you were joining us on the live stream as well. What do you think now that you have a few hours to digest all of that?
Well, I think there's no question. I mean, and I'm not Patrick. I'm not you guys, but we've got to get some kind of a franchise quarterback. I mean, we've not had anybody solid in there for a long time, so I'm not going to pin all my hopes on him, but I think that was a fairly good, even though we sold our soul to get him.
I like it.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know. I'm interested to see how these quarterbacks work out. Last night, Trey Lance, I think, is very interesting. Going at number 3, Zach Wilson. I said it last night on the live stream, and not because I think Zach Wilson is a bad player, but because of the Jets. And again, to me, a lot of it has to do with the team you go to. And Justin Fields, maybe it'll work out. I've already seen I've got Sports Center over here in front of me, so I got the ESPN channel I was watching last night when I cut it off. And so they were just analyzing it. They were talking about how they've already talked to Andy Dalton, and they've explained to Andy Dalton he is the starter. He will be the starter. And that's how they're going to roll with it right now. And they're going to bring Justin Fields along slowly. So, Jen, I don't know if people in Chicago this morning wake up liking it because, again, Andy Dalton is going to be the guy that it's at least going to get the start of the season and allow Justin Fields to develop. Zach Wilson, I don't think is going to work out in New York. Not because of him, but because of the team he went to and how they handle things. If Zach Wilson gets thrown into the fire immediately and has to start game one, I don't know how that works. And so with guys like that, I think it's very, very interesting. Those are going to be two quarterbacks that I think will follow their careers very closely and see how everything works out.
Well, 5 quarterbacks taken in the first 15 picks, with Alabama's Mac Jones being the last of those 5, going to the Patriots at 15, which was kind of in the tea leaves there after what 49ers did with Trey Lance at number 3, after what the Bears did at number 11 with Justin Fields especially, and going 1, 2, and 3, first time ever since 1999 that's happened. To me, the numbers just don't work out, and I'm amazed by this every single year that organizations do this. They put so much draft capital in a quarterback, and man, it's tough. It's tough for it to work out. So, Bill, I get it. You're saying Zach Wilson in the worst position, you think, even though the Jets do draft an offensive lineman there at number 14 to help protect him. I wouldn't disagree with you there. Which one do you feel like? I know you haven't been high on Trevor Lawrence's situation with Jacksonville necessarily, even with all the draft picks. But with Urban Meyer coming in and Jacksonville being what it's been in the last few years. So are you going Trey Lance as the quarterback as we sit here this morning with the best chance to thrive or to have the best career because of the situation that he's in?
Yeah, I guess I need to stick with that because that's what I said yesterday. It is one of those things where I think both you and I, Trey Lance is the one quarterback out of that group that we know the least about, right? Like, we're pretty familiar with Mac Jones, Justin Fields, Trevor Lawrence. That's the guy that we know. And even Zach Wilson actually watched between watching BYU in the opener against, I believe it was Navy, and then watching, obviously, the BYU Coastal Carolina game. I got to watch Zach Wilson. I've happened to catch him other times in his career. I've never seen a game Trey Lance play in. And, we're not doing the film study that Patrick is. So Trey Lance is the guy that I know the least amount about. And so it's interesting because, I think that's the team that's best set up for having success. But it's the quarterback I know the least about and what he does or how he helps that team.
Well, in his one game kind of exhibition that North Dakota State had for him, didn't look tremendous, but clearly didn't scare off the San Francisco 49ers. And then now with Kyle Shanahan, what happens with Jimmy Garoppolo, who, as we all know, no one is guaranteed a roster spot come Sunday because who knows if any of us are going to be here on Sunday. How that all plays out will be interesting to see for sure. It was a solid night, I think, last night. I wrote that even the band and the chair couldn't screw it up. I know it was Kings of Leon, but how much they were playing, and especially at the beginning, I guess maybe it's just all about the exposure you're supposed to get. Surely the NFL knows by now that all of us, when we see that it's coming on at 8 o'clock, if we turn it on at 8 o'clock and we're not seeing a clock with like 3 minutes left for a Jaguars pick, we're already ticked off. And the way the Kings of Leon kept going. What did we get? 8:30 last night was the first pick, I think. Is by the finally the time that the Jacksonville Jaguars made it official that this thing was coming for forever. And then the weird chair on the stage that I guess they said was the recliner that the commissioner, Roger Goodell, used last year. I thought that was weird to have the fans up there, and some of the presentations were over the top, but it was a different feel this time around as opposed to last year, Bill, where I feel like we were just so appreciative the day after the first round of the NFL draft last year, just to have some shred of sports in our lives in America. That was it this time last year. This time now, fast forward a year, we're back to being spoiled sports fans and can complain about some little details about the NFL draft and the presentation last night.
Yeah, total 180 in my opinion. And again, last year I was more involved in the draft, kind of like you, just because it was something to sit down and watch that was semi-sports related. It wasn't a game. There wasn't going to be a winner or a loser. No score was kept, but it was still something to sit down and watch and kind of count down the hours to until some fun began. And then last night, yeah, we're over there complaining about chairs and fans and Roger Goodell and bad draft picks.
Cool Care Heating and Air text line 803-404-6100. That same number. You can give us a call on the show as well. Love Chevy phone lines up and rolling this morning. 404-6100. Jess, first one at 5:35. Good morning, sirs. Christmas came early for me last night, he says, as my Carolina Panthers landed J.C. Horn for the first round pick. I was hoping we got him, and we did. So excited, could hardly sleep last night. Y'all fellas and ma'am, have a great day. Thanks, guys. Jess. Glad Jess is excited. I know he's not the only one. I think a lot of Gamecock fans excited as well. Give you some more of the details about J.C. Horn, picked at 8. Try to put it in perspective as far as Gamecock draft history goes. We'll do that when we come right back. Again, 803-404-6100. If you would like to join the show, up and rolling, Facebook, YouTube, live, on Twitter as well. The station handle at 1075 The Game. You're listening to the early game.
All right. Yeah, he was a loose cannon on the live. Yup.
Nice work, Anthony. Carlton, you guys up late, up early. Like, let's see how deep USC went in its release. J.C. Horn in the NFL draft. Okay. 1, 2, 3, 4.
Nothing like going to the beach with sinus issues. So if you see me sneeze another time or two this morning.
Well, if it makes you feel any better, Anthony's been at work since 4 this morning.
Woo!
Impressive, sir. No wonder you were sleeping during the broadcast last night.
Yeah. Woo-wee. Oh, everybody is back up and at it. Just fired up this morning.
Not sure if there's anything that Ed can do, but it sounds like this is recording really low. It has been for a few days.
Yep, I hear you. All right, how's the coffee kicking this morning, sir?
So I'm fine except for the sinus stuff. If I wasn't, you've seen 2 really good sneezes so far, and I got a feeling you'll catch one more here in the next 2.5 hours.
Ooh, impressive, DC. Had to get up at 1:50.
Oh, wow.
I don't think that counts as this morning, man.
No, yeah, you got up last night.
I think you got to make it to at least 4 to get to the morning. Maybe 3:30.
That's a good question. When does morning officially begin? 3:30 or 4?
Well, for DC, unfortunately, it began at 1:50. For you, sir. Chris, I'll be watching baseball tonight. Maybe flip over during commercials. That's my plan.
I don't know what I'll watch tonight. I'll be at the beach. Take the kids. We'll probably be by the pool. They'll be jumping in.
How late you letting them stay up?
Tonight?
All hours of the night?
Yeah, it's a party. Party hardy with both hands.
A bunch, Craig. That's a good question. More than I can comprehend.
Right. All right, guys, are up.
Hey, 107.5 The Game is the spot to go. Grill Bill contest. You can win a $50 IGA gift card. You sign up for Grill Bill, put in a couple of questions there, and if we pick you to join us every week, then you are automatically going to get that $50 IGA gift card and be entered to win a Camp Chef pellet grill worth more than $1,000. Grill Bill, sponsored by the South Carolina Pork Board, its member farmers, IGA food stores, and Camp Chef. Good way to get Bill Gunter, put them on the spot, and also pick up some loot there. Again, 1075thegame.com is the place to go. A bunch of questions and comments in on the Cool Care Heating and Air text line at 803-404-6100. We'll get to those in a second. First, Bill wanted to put into perspective J.C. Horn at number 8 for the Carolina Panthers last night. A little bit higher, I think, than most of us expected. I think 10 for the Cowboys was about as high as anybody expected him to go. This was a rare draft that was not defense heavy for sure, and it set a record last night. Top 7 picks. Number 7 had previously been the latest a defensive player was taken in the NFL draft. That got broken by 1 spot last night, and Horn with the Carolina Panthers at number 8, the highest ranked or the highest NFL draft pick, not named Jadeveon Clowney, for the Gamecock football program, except for one guy this century and except for just a few others in Gamecock football history. So the last guy drafted higher than J.C. Horn, who wasn't Jadeveon Clowney back in 2014 when he was the first overall pick. Might surprise you because unfortunately it didn't work out well in the NFL for Troy Williamson, but he was all the way up to the number 7 pick in 2004 for the Minnesota Vikings. Was there for several years, ended up going to Jacksonville Jaguars before it just didn't work out for him. A guy with tremendous speed, had maybe a few good games, a few good seasons you could say in the NFL, but did not live up and really just was set up to fail when he was the guy for the Minnesota Vikings who was taken so high and was supposed to fill in for Randy Moss. That's how I remember that thing going down. But Bill, it's hard to believe that Stephon Gilmore went number 10 overall. Last year was another first-round pick for the Gamecocks and Javon Kinlaw, but he was number 14 overall. Hayden Hurst was a first-rounder in 2018, but late in the first round at number 25, who now will pair with Kyle Pitts for the Atlanta Falcons, who they took number 4 overall last night. First SEC player taken in the draft last night. But other guys like Melvin Ingram taken 18th overall, Jonathan Joseph 24 overall, Dante Robinson number 10 overall, John Abraham number 13 overall. First round picks overall for the Gamecocks. Bill, do you know the number in school history that J.C. Horn made it? Yeah, we didn't talk about that last night on the live stream that you can still go back and watch on YouTube, by the way. What would you guess is the overall number, or do you know? Yeah. How many first round draft picks has Carolina football had through the years?
25. Seems like a fair number.
15 is the number, going back to 1979 with the first round pick was Rick Sanford for the New England Patriots, Willie Scott and George Rogers both going in the first round in 1981, and Rogers being the first pick there. And then it was it was really, compared to what it has been now, I guess from 2012 when Melvin Ingram and Stephon Gilmore both went in the first round. Then it was a couple years later, Clowney was the first overall pick. Hayden Hurst broke a bit of a streak there, 4 years, and now it's been back-to-back years. So this is the first time since 2006 when it was a run of Dante Robinson in 04, Troy Williamson in 05, and Jonathan Joseph in 06. That's been the most consistent run of first-rounders for Gamecock football of 3 years in a row. First time since then that the Gamecocks have had back-to-back years of first-round picks. And 2012, I guess you could say it's kind of the anomaly. They had 2 guys taken in the first round with Gilmore and Melvin Ingram. But yeah, 15 overall picks. Only Troy Williamson most recently and Jadeveon Clowney been taken higher than J.C. Horn. Then you got to go back to 1988 and Sterling Sharp taken number 7 overall, so 1 pick better than J.C. Horn, and it was George Rogers at number 1. That's the list as far as Gamecocks taken higher in the NFL than J.C. Horn. To me, it's kind of hard to wrap my brain around, but knowing J.C. Horn's bloodlines with Joe Horn clearly having a long and successful NFL career, and then knowing what he was in college, man, he was a shutdown corner. We've seen it from the Gamecocks before. It was Dante Robinson taking number 10 overall back in 2004 that really first kind of opened my eyes to a huge difference between a college career and the production we think a cornerback has as fans, and then how NFL franchises evaluate corners. I think this is just the latest example, Bill, but still surprising last night to me that the Panthers went ahead and took J.C. Horn at 3.
Well, as I sit here and think about it, obviously now, and it wasn't last year, but now there is connections between Matt Rule and the South Carolina program with Marcus Satterfield. Matt Rule was down on campus not too long ago. But then being just up the road, having a chance to see J.C. Horn, understanding his legacy as far as being the son of Joe Horn, I guess I see stuff there. What again, I'll go back to that maybe is the surprise, and I think, and I should have looked this up off air if I can go back last year, but I'm pretty certain this is the 8th straight pick defensive for Matt Rule and the Panthers. I'm thinking that last year the Panthers took 7 defensive players. So this would continue a run of right now Matt Rule trying to get the defense better through the NFL draft. And so that's kind of interesting in itself to me that they would do that. I think last year it was Derek Brown that they took with the number, I think 7 or 8 pick, as I sit here and try and find it real quick. But
7.
yeah, that's just kind of interesting to me that you're seeing what the Panthers do. I don't think this is as much about J.C. Horn. Again, we knew he was going to go pretty high. We thought it would probably be 10. Moving up 2 spots to 8 is really cool. But to me, this is about the Cowboys and what they're trying to do.
Yeah, you're right. I'm looking at the picks last year, going back through them, and you're right. All guys on defense is rare, I think, for a franchise. And you mentioned the connection with Matt Rule and Marcus Satterfield and several of the Gamecock assistants now. Well, the odd part to that is those guys didn't coach J.C. Horn, the new Carolina coaches that to Matt Rule. But certainly it probably does help to have guys on the ground in the facility where J.C. Horn just was, especially after it ended with the Gamecocks having opted out when Will Muschamp and company were announced to Travaris Robinson and kind of moving on there. I guess it was Will Muschamp who moved on and Robinson did finish out the final few games. But the ugly end there. Saw a text in from someone on the Cool Care Heating and Air text line talking about how now it's the last 2 picks from the Gamecock perspective. It's not necessarily a great relationship between the fans and the players, with J.C. Horn having opted out, and then the year before, obviously Javon Kinlaw ended up saying what he said, and it got a little bit ugly with Gamecock fans this past season. What do you make of the relationship moving forward between Gamecock fans and those 2 first-round picks? I understand it was messy and ugly. To me, it's pretty representative of 16 losses the last couple of years, and not too, while disappointing, not too surprising that you have some overly sensitive fans or overly critical fans even aimed towards the best players in the program the last couple of years, Bill.
Well, I think you also had Deebo Samuel say something as well, if I remember correctly. And then he was back at the spring game on Sunday, and people welcomed him and cheered for him when he got put on the big board. And I think the same thing will happen with J.C. Horn. J.C. Horn, there are differences, so I'm not trying to make an apples-to-apples comparison here, but I think J.C. Horn will be similar to A.J. Lawson in that he's an incredible player. He's been an incredible player for South Carolina, but because of the teams he played on, people won't remember him the same as maybe they will a Stephon Gilmore, some of the other defensive backs, even a Sheldon Brown. I'm trying to think back to where Sheldon Brown went in the draft to the Eagles, but they won't remember him the same because, again, the team, the team accolades aren't there, and certainly the last 2 seasons, not good at all. So that's kind of interesting, but I think people will welcome him back. Look, I was just thinking about this being right up the road and Shane Beamer making the effort, even though he didn't coach J.C. Horn, but Shane Beamer making the effort to bring former players back and show them off to recruits that come around campus or whatever it may be. I think Shane Beamer is going to try and mend that relationship the best he can to make sure that, hey, J.C. Horn is a selling point and that you can come to South Carolina, play defensive back or wide receiver, whatever position you want to put, and you can go to the NFL and you can be picked very high. And so the fact that J.C. Horn's just up the road, I think people will get over that. They'll get over what was said, and you'll end up rebuilding that relationship and having him on the sidelines when possible and show him on the big screen, and everybody will cheer and be happy. And we'll remember that he basically won the Auburn game with his performance. That it was a very good player for South Carolina for 3 years.
Anonymous texter hits us up, 803-404-6100. I want to be happy for Horn and Gamecock Nation, especially being a Panther fan, but I just can't get the bad taste out of my mouth. He quit on us and his teammates last season. Again, just one opinion. I know I've seen the opposite sentiment expressed as well, especially on our live chat. I'm just trying to see who exactly. Like DC says, I'm happy for JC. Hope he stays healthy, does well in Charlotte. And Brian points out that Alabama had 6 first-round picks last night. Todd in pointing that out as the resident Alabama fan on the Who Care Heating and Air text line. That ties the record. 2004 Miami, the only other team to have 6 guys taken in the first round. Bill, you want to name a couple of those names? Any idea who some of those Miami players were almost 20 years ago now?
20 years
One more
ago?
time?
Yeah,
2004. The 2004 draft where 6 guys from Miami were taken, and this was a heck of a run. The 4th consecutive season that Miami produced the most first-round picks in the NFL draft, almost kind of like a run that Alabama is on right now.
2004. So that was a bunch of the younger players from the really good teams in 2000 and 2001. And so by 2004, Miami as a team was starting to fall off, I believe. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I think by 2004, I feel like that's when Miami was starting to go downhill a little bit.
It's hard not to fall off. Like in 01, they had 4 guys in the first round. In 02, they had 5. In 03, they had 4. And then in 04, they set the record with 6 that Alabama has now tied.
Is that the Winslow year? Was Winslow on that? Did we do
correct.
that?
Kellen Winslow was taken number 6 overall at Cleveland Browns. He was the second Miami player taken.
I think we did that the other day. Vince Wilfork. Was it DJ Williams? I think is a linebacker. I think Patrick did this the other day. You might have walked off, and we were doing this. DJ Williams. I think Sean Taylor is a part of that, if I remember correctly.
Got it. Well
did I just name 2 more? There was another linebacker. Was it John Beeson or Jonathan Vilma?
Jonathan Vilma, and then another offensive lineman in Vernon Carey.
Yeah, we did this the other day because I didn't know that the Duke basketball player, Vernon Carey Jr., was the son of that Vernon Carey. So I do remember doing this, and Patrick brought that up.
19 dudes in 4 years taken is the all-time record for any college football program that Alabama might try to break now. I don't know where they are in the last 4 years, but they got to be close. And again, 6 last night for them. The numbers for Clemson, very impressive as well. It's hard to believe, first of all, that Clemson is the only team ever to have the same NFL team take their quarterback and running back in the first round. Also, this coming from their former sports information director, basically the authority on Clemson sports, in my mind, Tim Beret on Twitter, put it out last night. After going 31 straight years without more than 1 first-round draft pick in the same NFL draft, Clemson's now had more than 1 first-round NFL draft pick in 5 of the last 7 years. So an impressive run continues for Clemson. No surprise to those of us who've been following things. And it was a little bit surprising to see them both go to the same team last night. And I know Patrick is especially not high on running backs being taken in the first round, especially if your running backs are productive. But clearly, Urban Meyer feeling good enough about Travis Etienne to grab the Clemson running back and pair him with Trevor Lawrence moving forward. We're going to move forward. We need to take a break right now. 803-404-6100. Again, the number into the program. Carolina baseball back in action tonight at Ole Miss. We'll talk a little bit about the SEC series on the road for the Gamecocks. The first of 4 left in SEC play. You're listening to the early game here on 107.5 The Game. Let's see. Olsen Frank Gore, I'm guessing, went the first of that run. No, it's been in the league so long. front of me. I don't think Olsen was even a first round pick, actually. Maybe or Frank Gore. About that. So the 01 first round picks. Wow. Reggie Wayne, Santana Moss, Dave Morgan, and defensive tackle Damian Lewis.
What you trying to figure out?
Justin just said Greg Olsen and Frank Gore were a couple of those first round picks, right? And they weren't even taken in the first round. Jeremy Shockey, though, believe it or not. Or if Gore and Olsen were taken, they were taken in later years. Let me double check. I know Gore shouldn't be taken in later years. He's ancient. No, 05. He was a third rounder in 05, Frank Gore. See what Greg Olsen was. He was a first rounder in 07.
Who was?
Greg Olsen was the first rounder, the second to last pick in the 06 draft.
I was going to say, Frank Gore is just holding on for dear life. Did he retire yet?
I don't. If he had, I hadn't seen it. I would think we would see it.
Jen, good news. Your Cubs blew out the Brady's last night, 9-3.
Gosh, only took how many 5 games to start winning again? Woo!
Baseball,
Congratulations.
Jen. It's baseball.
I know.
Long season. Play the long game.
It is. It's just, when you're in the bottom of your division. They'll be okay.
Well, now we know who we count on. We can count on Jason for our live streams. I mean, just the Vikings correspondent sorely missed last night.
We did. Yeah, that's a good point. Anthony was our resident 49ers guy, very fired up when they made their pick. Yeah, Larry Fitzgerald's hanging around out there. And then what is it? The Cardinals just got A.J. Green, too. A.J. Green is what?
Being our Vikings correspondent, very pleased with the pick. You're not even proving that you know what the heck who the heck it is.
Get him, Tim. Get him.
We're heading back in.
Well, I had to go look it up because they traded down and it was an offensive lineman, and it just bores me.
If guys are up.
Draft back underway tonight. Rounds 2 and 3. Guessing we'll speed along a little bit more than last night's draft. That stretched out until after midnight. I think the 8 o'clock broadcast when it's Kings of Leon for the first 15 or 20 minutes. You're not in any rush. And that's just what the NFL draft is. After last year, giving us something for sports. I'm not going to complain too much. In 7:30 first pitch tonight, Thomas Farr back on the mound for the Gamecocks after his career-long outing against the number 1 ranked Arkansas Razorbacks last week. That did not result in a win, but I think does give him a little bit more confidence. Ole Miss pretty confident coming in as well. So we mentioned it earlier this week, Bill, how they were down 9-1, just right on the brink of getting swept at home by LSU last year. Last week, that is, I should say. 9-1 going to the bottom of the 8th inning in that series finale last Sunday. Might have been, it was on Saturday. That was one of those Thursday, Friday, Saturday series. And then they score 8 runs, all with 2 outs to tie it up at the bottom of the 8th and go on to get a walk-off home run in the 9th to carry some momentum into this week. They also get their Friday night ace and Gunnar Hoglund back. I think he missed last week's series. His numbers are pretty good, as most frontline starters are. 87 strikeouts this year to 16 walks. Thomas Farr's numbers, 69 strikeouts to 26 walks. So a little bit better numbers from Hoglund than Farr tonight. 3.6 ERA is where Farr is, and 2.7 is where Hoglund is. He's 3-2 on the season. Farr, a 2-4 record. Would be quite the luxury, you feel like, if the Gamecocks could actually reverse this trend now that has followed them 4 or 5 straight series, right? So the Gamecocks have won. No, I think this is 4 straight series they've lost now the first game, because they had won 4 in a row, including that Florida sweep where they actually did win. That one was the only time they won the series opening game. So looking for their first series opening win in the last 5 SEC series tonight, Bill, going at Ole Miss, where it will not be easy, and you got full capacity at Swayze Field, and these games are a little extra important for Ole Miss. Their record is good, above 500 in the SEC, and yet they've only won 2 of their series. They're 10-8, lost their last 4 SEC series, lost 2 out of 3, but swept the first couple, and so somehow still in contention there, even though they've dropped 4 out of the 6 SEC series this year. Kind of strange for sure.
Yeah, I mean, certainly they got off to a hot start, 6-0, jumped all the way up, I think, into the top 5. Now, my question to you is for both of these programs, when you talk about hosting and you talk about postseason, given that not Monday, the 3rd, my birthday, but the 10th, they're going to announce the regionals. I wonder how much the committee or whomever is handling this will have set in stone prior to next weekend series. Next weekend, South Carolina hosts Mississippi State. So I feel like while you do have maybe next weekend to showcase a little bit of what you can do, I wonder how much this weekend matters to locking up for South Carolina, who's right there on the cusp. They're right there at of hosting a super regional. And I would be curious if they can go in and win 2 of 3, what that does for their chances of getting into the super regional conversation, or at least fighting their way into that conversation and maybe holding off the committee for one more weekend, because that's a change this year, given what the NCAA wants to do and the protocols and all that. I think that makes this weekend series that much more important, just because you're really talking about postseason play and hosting at Founders Park, or maybe even working your way into a super regional.
Yeah, from the Ole Miss perspective, they've got the disadvantage of having dropped 2 out of 3 to Mississippi State, and the geographical challenge of getting the NCAA to put 2 super regional host sites in the state of Mississippi. Not going to happen out there. Ole Miss just isn't there. Their RPI is really strong. It's 15 right now, but they would have to go on a heck of a run, and just don't feel like they have the time to do it in this year because of what you mentioned about the COVID issues in the NCAA tournament, kind of shifting how they're announcing the home sites.
45.
I think there's been some movement in that recently. We'll get into that as we roll into hour number 2, plus plenty more to recap from last night's first round of the NFL draft. Still got 2 and 3 tonight, and then rounds 4 through 7 set on Saturday.
30.
Give you more info as it pertains to Gamecock football and, of course, J.C. Horn. The big prize, I think, in the NFL draft, maybe outside of the 49ers going Trey Lance at number 3, which wasn't a shock, I don't think, but maybe the most aggressive selection last night. The Panthers decided to go defense at number 8. They didn't have to go far to find J.C. Horn just down the road. Hour number 2 here on the early game coming up. You're making it. You're making it.
Yeah, I'm Bill. Yeah, I'm not like sick. I'm just sick. Sinuses and congestion. This isn't I don't feel a lack of energy, or I don't feel bad. I'm sneezing and coughing.
Just messaging
I'm right.
with. Okay.
No, go ahead.
I was just messaging with Reggie Anderson, asking him, who his pick is, and of course, I'm like, okay, Carrie has Chase, I have Byron, and Bill once again has his girlfriend Denny. So, all right.
Well done.
Hey, what position are you in?
I am number 4.
All right, just think. I'm going to go use the bathroom. You think about it and get back to me when I come back on where you stand in our picks contest.
Mm-hmm. Well, in my
If
book,
you want, I'll take you to
number 1.
lunch. I'll take you to lunch and offer some advice.
Really?
I'll even draw you up a sheet of notes that when you go to make your picks, you can have a cheat sheet. You know what number 1 will say? Take the favorite if they're there. Denny Hamlin, young lady. Denny Hamlin.
Do you ever look at the toilet bowl and think it's a mirror?
Have you ever beaten me in the 2 years in the picks contest overall?
Technically, yes, but you wind over the point, so
No.
you got it.
Erroneous.
No.
I forget. Normally, my neighbors, the next door people, I forget. They only come up like 2 or 3 times a year. They're in town, so my yelling and screaming at 7 a.m. probably is not helpful because you can hear through. I totally just forgot that as I'm yelling down the hall.
Neighbor of the year.
Uh-huh. He ought not get too sassy. He might want to remember how easy his life is with all of his live spots and the fact that I control his mic. So,
Yikes. Don't cross Jen Jensen. You guys get that?
All right.
She will destroy you.
Yeah.
So it just retweeted this.
Huh?
What's that? Sorry.
I was gonna say I felt bad the other night. Like again, I forget. Yeah, Craig. I've got one neighbor to my right on the other side of this wall. I got nobody to my left. I have an in unit, and these people over here, they live in Florida, and this is like a vacation home because they have family up here, and they come around, but they only come up like 2 or 3 times a year. They don't come up a lot, so I'm not used to having people on either side of me. And so I can be a little bit louder. So like Wednesday night, I was doing laundry and I had my little speaker going throughout the house and I was blaring DMX and walking around, and I came downstairs to do something and I could hear DMX. I could hear my speaker upstairs, and all of a sudden it dawned on me like, oh, it was 10:14 because I looked at the clock. I was like, oh, great. I'm probably annoying the neighbor with DMX music blaring around if they're trying to go to sleep. I felt bad, so I ran upstairs and cut it off, but I forget about that. And Jen doesn't live too far from me either.
That's right. I don't have a knife. I do have a tire iron that I keep, so just,
It makes more sense.
Exactly.
Joe Pesci over there with her tire iron.
So apparently Derek would like you to take him to lunch as well. Jason, come on. No NASCAR king, especially capitalized, man. Come on.
I'm younger, and I like to think of myself more as a prince.
As a what?
A prince.
Oh, I was coming up with a totally different P word. Okay.
Is it more the Prince of Bel Air?
You're number one. You're number one.
Or the Prince like Eddie Murphy in Coming to America?
Yeah. Uh-huh.
More like probably the Prince in how the what's the cartoon? The Prince's New Groove, or how the Prince got his where he turns him into a llama. Have y'all ever seen that? That's probably little. The 8 and the 6-year-old could watch it. It's good. It's got David Spade.
Emperor's New Groove. Yeah, Emperor's New Groove.
Emperor's New Groove, which is actually pretty funny. It's got him and then the big guy is Putty from Seinfeld.
Gotcha.
2000. So your kids would like it. It's good enough. It's good. Those two could watch it now. Patrick Warburton. Oh, John Goodman's in it. I forgot about that.
He's got a great voice, man.
Yeah, that's a good movie night for the kids. It's a funny movie.
Zach Morris is a relief pitcher for Arkansas. Came in the game the other day. It's pretty amazing. Poor guy. Exactly. Got to watch out for the Chicago style.
Only threatened a guy with one once. You don't talk about people in a small town. That's all I'm saying. All right, Princess, we're back.
Always a good time to take a break right near. You gotta get in the break conversation so you can miss the intro.
Yeah, there. That's right.
The day after NFL draft, round number 1, and the inaugural episode of 107.5 The Bar last night. Thought it was a lot of fun. Both instances. A lot of fun having you guys join us. A lot of listeners hopped on with us. Craig, Trey, Anthony from Kershaw was with us. Carlton, Mike the President. A bunch of you guys hopped on. Appreciate you doing that and had a good time talking it up with you guys and going through the draft with you, watching it with you. And J.C. Horn at number 8, the Carolina Panthers. Really, Bill, I know we made fun of Patrick for calling the NFL draft electric, but that was the electric moment that will stick with me because didn't see it coming. We all knew J.C. Horn was going to get picked and picked relatively early last night, but I think we thought the ceiling was going to be number 10 with the Dallas Cowboys. And you got to give the Carolina Panthers some credit for kind of keeping that evaluation under wraps. They said Horn was the number 1 player on their board, and they got their guy.
Not going to finish. I thought you were going to keep going with that. Well, as we discussed the draft the last 2 days, here's what's surprising about it. We knew that there was a lot of offensive guys. The quarterbacks were the discussion of the draft. And obviously, at 3, as we said leading up to it, and then also last night, the draft from Patrick's perspective really began at 3 because you knew what 1 and 2 were going to be Trevor Lawrence and Zach Wilson. And then at 3, maybe it was going to be Mac Jones, maybe it was going to be Justin Fields. There really wasn't a lot of discussion about it being Trey Lance. We thought Trey Lance would fall a little bit further. And then what would the Falcons do? The Bengals were looking at Penei Sewell or Jamar Chase. They go Jamar Chase. At 6, it was the Lions, and I think Patrick had them taking an offensive player. 7 was why am I blanking on who 7 is? I'll have to go back and look.
Ended up dropping to 7. It was Waddle getting taken by the Dolphins at 6.
Yeah, so but I only say this because we knew there would be a lot of offensive players taken very early in the draft. And again, the surprise to me wasn't that J.C. Horn got picked at 8. If there was a team there that needed defensive help, I think we might have been more realistic that, J.C. Horn could go earlier. It's that I think all of us agreed, and the people that have chimed in on the live stream and the text messages and the phone calls, I think we all agreed that we thought the Panthers would go offense. That was the direction that they would go, and that a defensive player wouldn't end up being taken until probably 9, 10. The Broncos were a team that had been mentioned. They ended up taking Patrick Surtain with 9, and then you had Dallas trading to Philadelphia for Devontae Smith, and then Dallas does end up taking Micah Parsons, the linebacker from Penn State. So they did take a defensive player, but I think that was the surprise, Tim. And I think it's again, if there had been a team that we thought or knew needed defensive help, within that 6 to 9 range, maybe we are thinking more that J.C. Horn goes higher. But that was not how the four of us broke down the draft leading up to last night. So that was the surprise, is that the Panthers. And by the way, I went back and looked. That was their fourth defensive back that they've drafted. They took 3 last year. They took 2 actually, I guess that's their 5th. They took 2 defensive backs and 2 safeties last year. So that to me is just as surprising as well.
One person who wasn't surprised was our youngest participant on the NFL draft live stream last night for 107.5 The Bar. He was the only one that I know of anyway that was drinking milk, and he joins us now on the Love Chevy phone lines to break it all down. Sean, how you doing this morning, sir?
I'm doing well.
Well, tell us about what you thought about last night. I know your dad, Trey, didn't let you stay up and watch the Carolina Panthers selection, but has he told you all about it this morning? And what did you have to tell him when you found out the news?
He told me this morning that J.C. Horn was on the Carolina Panthers, which was the one I picked. And I said, that is insane, because I've never chosen. I don't know a lot of football teams, so I didn't know I'd pick the right one.
Sometimes less is more, Sean. Congratulations on being you have taken over Patrick Perrette's role here on 107.5 The Game. We're just going to refer to you for all of our NFL draft questions from now on. Is that cool?
Yes, that is cool.
Excellent.
And also, I remember Patrick was like, that's not cool.
Well done, Sean. As you go to school today, just tell everybody that you're now an NFL draft expert, all right?
Yes, sir.
Attaboy.
Good job.
Well done. The milk did all the inspiring yesterday. That's a good lesson to all the kids listening out there that have to listen to Bill Gunter's terrible advice usually about getting donuts and going to school. Drink milk, and you'll know more about the NFL draft.
But just don't drink sour milk, because I think that's what he drinks more.
That's a good point. Well done. Thanks for calling us, Sean.
Y'all are such Grinches, man. It's Friday morning. Kids should have a donut and milk, or chocolate milk. Chocolate milk and a donut is a great way to start a Friday morning. Grinch 1 and Grinch 2 over here trying to hold kids
who
down.
Who attacked whom during the break?
That's a good point, Jen. Jen's still a little bit bitter.
Basically trying to belittle me about, the NASCAR picks and everything.
I'm not belittling. I was not. Don't be so sensitive. I was not belittling you. I was pointing out that you are not very good at picking NASCAR picks, and that if the favorite is there, you take the favorite. I was giving you. I'm trying to help you. You're not going to get better at this if you don't listen to my advice. It's not my fault. I coach hard, and I'm trying to coach you up a little bit. Don't be so sensitive.
Appreciate that, man.
Yeah.
You're awesome.
I'm going to give you a hug later. You need a hug.
One of us might have been a little sensitive about the word belittling. Chris says the Cowboys should only be taking defensive players in the draft this year. We need all the help we can get on that side of the ball. Interesting situation they had with the interdivisional trade with the Eagles. So they traded back a couple of picks and still got their guy, I think, in Micah Parsons, defensive side of the ball, the linebacker out of Penn State at number 12. But that was also a really interesting part of the draft last night, that the Eagles call up the Cowboys and hop up there to get Devontae Smith to help them out on the outside there. Then it was the Bears at number 11 hopping up from number 20 and trading with the Giants to get Justin Fields. The Giants ended up getting Kadarius Toney, and that entered the South Carolina embarrassing video portion of the evening there for the NFL draft. And then it was the Cowboys of Micah Parsons at number 12, where it got a little bit more tame until Mac Jones taken at 15 with the Patriots. Is there a big winner in your mind, Bill, from the first round of the NFL draft last night? I think we might look back at this thing and say the Green Bay Packers are the big winner after the news came out before the draft that we haven't really even discussed this morning about Aaron Rodgers being unhappy and basically saying he's kind of done with the Packers and they need to trade him and move on, and he's just completely disgruntled there.
Well, this is according to sources or according to people. We haven't heard from Aaron Rodgers. I'm sure this will play out over the weekend. You had the general manager for the Packers come out and say that they are committed to Aaron Rodgers, that they're not going to trade him. At this point, I think it's pretty certain that he will be wearing a Green Bay jersey in 2021. I think the question is past that, and that's what I brought up yesterday. Because if you're the Packers, this is where it does get interesting. This is going to me, my personal opinion. This is going to end messy. I think Aaron Rodgers will play for the Packers this year. I think the Packers are not in a position to be able to get what they want for Aaron Rodgers. But on the flip side of that, I think Aaron Rodgers is able to walk here at the end of the year or get out of something. And this may be a situation where they battle through this year. He's actually under contract through 2023, not next year. But he has no more guaranteed money left on his deal. And this is what the general manager had to say. The lines of communication with Rodgers and his representatives have been open throughout the offseason, and they spoke again on Thursday. So at least the general manager is saying, hey, we've been speaking to his side. We've been talking to his. So it will be interesting to see how this plays out and what happens with Aaron Rodgers. And if the Packers decide to move him, you've got to get something for him. And there's plenty of franchises out there that I think would love to add an Aaron Rodgers. And I mentioned it yesterday. The 49ers are a quarterback away, and nothing against Trey Lance or Jimmy Garoppolo, but let's be honest, we're all taking an Aaron Rodgers over both of those guys, and Aaron Rodgers makes them a Super Bowl contender immediately.
The Packers going with another defensive player late in the draft last night, the corner out of Georgia, Eric Stokes, the 12th and final SEC player selected in the first round. Half of those 12 Alabama picks, tying the record from Miami set back in 2004. I think the Packers and that franchise doing it wrong right now with dealing with a bunch of drama this time of year. There are just some organizations that it just seems to follow the drama, and it looks like even when they try to do it right, like I think the Bears are an example of that last night. I like them getting Justin Fields. I completely do not like how they went about doing it and now how they've got it set up. I think the Carolina Panthers on the other end of that spectrum will explain that when we come back and give you more details about exactly where J.C. Horn falls in Gamecock football as number 8 pick last night overall in the NFL draft. 803-404-6100. Would love to hear from you, whether you had milk last night and knew that J.C. Horn was going to get picked by the Carolina Panthers, or maybe you had a different beverage and not quite as plugged in to the NFL draft projections as our buddy Sean. You're listening to The Early Game. It's 107.5 The Game.
107.5 The Game is on everywhere. On the air, online, on your phone or tablet, on the app, Alexa, in the shower with you.
There we go. Yep.
Yeah, here you go.
Right this morning.
Gotta be so frustrating for Aaron Rodgers.
Do you feel like they drafted a defensive player just to stick it to him?
Looks like Bill's got a gun there. Shadow.
No, it's a broom. I had a little
Broom, Bill.
what's it called?
Shadow, you kind of look like Elmer Fudd. My kid's been watching Looney Tunes. That's what I saw.
I was cleaning the cobweb there.
Need to get that as our new screenshot for this episode of the show.
What
Your shadow on the wall,
just right here.
pulling out a shotgun. Oh, nice, Chris. That sounds like a dessert/meal/beverage. I bet you do, Jason, as a Vikings guy. Looks like Jen's talking to one of her many admirers on the phone right now.
Oh, she is the grace of 107.5.
Wow. Jen, can you hear me, or are you still on the phone? That answers that, doesn't it?
Answers that.
Yeah, I would be pumped if I was a Steelers fan too, Jake. I think Najee's going to be good for a long, long time. Will be interesting to compare he and Travis Etienne going back to back there. Yeah, and I think teams overcomplicate this thing so much. Really simple. Get the best player you can get. And you can make adjustments later.
Yeah, I went back last year. The Panthers drafted 3 cornerbacks: Troy Pride Jr., Kenny Robinson, and Stanley Thomas Oliver, and then drafted Jeremy Chin, a safety. So that's 5 defensive backs. That's actually 5 defensive backs in their last 6 picks. Because that started in round 2 last year. They took a defensive lineman from Baylor in round 6. That's crazy.
Mm-hmm. Well, you would think that would kind of balance out, and they'll go more offense here. Jen, we got somebody on the.
Nope. An admirer.
Oh. Leighton Vander Esch. Well, I can't see the guy fishing now the way I move the curtains. It's kind of my entertainment. See if he catches a fish. We are poking the bear with the draft talk, yeah.
It's Gamecock
That's
Larry.
true. Jen might get an earful when Gamecock Larry calls in. Although, like I said yesterday, I told somebody he just gets confused sometimes. Sometimes he forgets it's 107.5 the game. He thinks it's 107.5 the Gamecock Larry.
He is devoted to his school.
There is no doubt about that.
Good question, Jake. We'll get that in just a second.
You guys are up.
Friendly reminder, 40 minutes from now starts your first of 10 chances today to win $100, qualify to win $25,000 grand prize. It's our 25K workday payday. Secret keyword announced at the top of every hour, 8 a.m. to 5 p.m., Monday through Friday, running through May 12th. That's when you can text in to 95819. Text that secret keyword in. You got a chance to win $100 and qualify for the grand prize jackpot of $25,000. So, Bill, before the break, I mentioned the NFL draft is a great example of organizations either approaching things the right way or the wrong. To me, the Carolina Panthers did it the right way. They went out before this draft and cleared up the quarterback situation. Got Sam Darnold in, moved Teddy Bridgewater out. There were quarterbacks available at number 8. but it would have completely then devolved their plan. Their plan would have kind of blown up in their face, or it would have showed us that I don't think they know what they're doing if they pick Justin Fields or if they pick Mac Jones at number 8, who is still available. I was a little surprised they didn't go for an offensive lineman. I think if Penei Sewell would have dropped to number 8, maybe they would have taken him, because they still need a lot of help along the offensive line. I think most of us understand that. But the fact that they went with who they said was the number 1 guy on their board, J.C. Horn, shows conviction, shows streamlined front office to me. The exact opposite situation is going on with the Green Bay Packers, where this news pops out, and you never know how it comes out or where it comes from, right? And when it happens right around the NFL draft, it's always suspect. But it seems to be that the Packers front office and that organization in a bit of disarray right now with the Aaron Rodgers disgruntlement news coming out yesterday. And then you got an organization like the Chicago Bears. And got a question from Jake on Facebook Live. How does Jen feel about Justin Fields over Mac Jones? Why don't we start with your feelings on that, Jen, and then I'll give you my take about the Bears.
Yeah, I was going to say I can't provide just in-depth insight, but Fields a little bit more of a mobile quarterback, and won't that suit? I think that'll suit the Bears a little bit better. But I think Mac Jones, that would have also been a good pick for us. No matter what, I think we needed a quarterback.
There's no doubt about it. And to me, it's that attitude in the situation now. So you do have Andy Dalton. Bill, I know you mentioned earlier that they're saying Dalton's going to be the starter, and a veteran guy, a guy who has been, I think, serviceable probably at best. He's looked at as maybe he's going to be looked at as the classic bridge guy, right? You're the 1-year guy. They brought him in. You are a stopgap before you get your franchise quarterback ready to go. So from that situation, from that standpoint, I guess it's a good thing for the Bears. The Bears getting Justin Fields overall, I think, a good move. But now how they did it, the perception from the fan base and from the outside is, boy, they gave up a considerable amount just to move up those 9 spots to get Justin Fields. Now, we've seen that work well. Kansas City Chiefs gave up some stuff to jump up in the draft a few years ago to get Patrick Mahomes, and they jumped over the Houston Texans, who ended up picking Deshaun Watson, and at the time, it was a really curious choice. Obviously, that's worked out really well for them. I will be shocked if we think the same of the Chicago Bears and Justin Fields a few years from now, because I think Fields now has some extra pressure on him, seen as the guy that the organization has already given up a significant amount for. So the pressure of a Chicago quarterback is always high. And now I think that's just a little bit more. I'm fascinated to see how this works out.
And does he have the temperament to handle it?
Yeah.
What I'm trying to go back and look real quick, because the Bears traded up to get Mitchell Trubisky as well. And so I was trying to go back and look and see what exactly they gave up in that situation, because I feel like they gave up a lot. And I was trying to go back and look at the exact. So they traded, the Bears traded the 49ers traded the number 2 pick in the 2017 draft of the Bears for the number 3 pick, a 3rd rounder, a 4th rounder, and a 2018 3rd round pick. So they've given up a lot, man, to get their last 2 quarterbacks, and you got to get one that lands, that hits. And whether it's Justin Fields or not, time will tell. But that's a lot for 2 quarterbacks in a 4-year period, in Trubisky and now Justin Fields. And as I was trying to scan and find exactly what they gave up, I was coming across a couple articles that was from earlier this spring, just talking about how much that Mitchell Trubisky trade set them back with just draft picks and with the franchise. So, you make that play, you gotta have confidence in your guy that you're drafting. And if Justin Fields is the guy, I'll be interested to see how he translates to the NFL. But now you got to put some weapons around him and give him a chance to succeed.
I think I feel like there's more hope for him than there was for Trubisky. I think as soon as they made the Trubisky pick, it was just like everybody was just so unhappy about that and felt like that was just the biggest goose egg. So I'm not getting that vibe from Fields coming in, so I feel like maybe this is a little bit stronger. But yeah, they have given up a whole bunch.
There's not as much pressure on him as there was with Trubisky being much more towards the top of that draft. But there still is the environment of, hey, we're giving up a lot to get you. Here's a little extra pressure on your shoulders in a position that just hasn't worked out through the years. I mean, the Chicago Bears' history of really good starting quarterbacks is a short history. And there are not a lot of guys there. It's a profile and difficult position, I think, right now for anybody to live up to it. Justin Fields is the latest guy that has to do.
I think Aaron Rodgers should have come over.
Yeah, obviously. You never know. I wouldn't rule it out at this point.
Spiteful for the Packers.
Craig hits us up with the numbers for J.C. Horn. $21.1 million, $12.7 million signing bonus, for the 8th pick overall. So clearly J.C. Horn is cashing in. Bill, you want to guess how many Gamecocks in history have been drafted higher than J.C. Horn?
2. 3. 2.
Keep going.
3.
So who are you thinking?
Well, Sterling Sharp was drafted 7. Jadavian. Oh wait, 3. 3. It's 3. Did you said this earlier? Did Troy Williamson go 7 or 8?
He went number 7 as well.
4.
4 is correct. You got 2 number 7s in Sterling Sharp and Troy Williamson, wide receivers, and then 2 number 1s in George Rogers and Jadeveon Clowney. So the 5th highest drafted player out of the University of South Carolina all time, J.C. Horn. J.C. Horn had a really good career. I don't think anyone would argue he had the 5th best career of all time for South Carolina football players, but clearly the evaluation to the NFL and how that it works out in the draft is a little bit different. The 15th all-time first-round pick for Gamecock football. That's what J.C. Horn became, and just the first time since 2006 the Gamecocks have had back-to-back first-round picks. In 2012, it was a couple of first-rounders in that same draft, and Stephon Gilmore and Melvin Ingram. Some news and notes from the J.C. Horn pick last night that was surprising, I think, to a lot of folks, notable for a lot of different reasons, and now will be very interesting to watch how J.C. Horn performs for Matt Rule and the Carolina Panthers moving forward after being the number 8 overall pick. We're going to move forward, kick off the second half of the show. Got Gamecock baseball to talk about at Ole Miss this weekend. Big SEC series for sure. Friday night, 7:30, first pitch right here on 107.5 The Game. Our coverage will start at 7:15. You're listening to the early game. All right, this is you here, right, Bill?
Some of you may be looking around this weekend thinking it's time to purchase a new vehicle. You might be looking at the pre-owned selections that different people have. A lot of people are out selling used cars, pre-owned vehicles today. Love Chevrolet selling a ton of them. But did you know there's a difference between a used vehicle and a Love Chevrolet certified pre-owned vehicle? A Love Chevrolet certified pre-owned vehicle has a 6-year, 100,000-mile powertrain limited warranty, a 12-month, 12,000-mile bumper-to-bumper limited warranty, roadside assistance, courtesy transportation, 3-day, 150-mile exchange policy, scheduled maintenance programs, limited OwnStar trial, free CarMax vehicle history report. It goes on and on and on. That's right. You can buy with confidence when you purchase a Love Chevrolet certified pre-owned vehicle. There's nothing better than going to Love Chevrolet. Incredible sales staff. If you're looking for a new car as well, 14 acres of brand new Chevys to choose from. So whether it's owned or whether it's new, Love Chevrolet is your one-stop shop. Trust the dealership that's family and has proudly been serving generations of families for over 60 years. Love Chevrolet, I-20 in Harbison between Lowe's and Frankie's Fun Park, or on the web, lovechevy.com. Get out to Love Chevrolet and find new roads.
Morning, Hope. Yeah, missed you last night. Attaboy. Anthony and Hope, I feel like you guys are the curators of the YouTube channel. Much appreciated. Yeah, Beal hopped on last night. Yeah, it sounds like that sleep number did the trick for Bill. Beal was towards the end of the live stream. Got to see Bill in his glory. Let's put the mute on him. You're welcome.
Wandering off on you, but my goodness, when your nose starts running and you're trying to do trying to talk, man, that is not fun or easy.
Not a good feeling.
I was like, all right, buddy, let's get to that break because I didn't want to go wandering just to get a tissue real quick, but I was losing it over here.
I used to work at a talk station in Bloomington, Illinois, and we would have to do hourly 5-minute newscasts. Got the hiccups one night, man. It's just, not good.
And how long ago was that, Jen? And it still haunts you, right?
It still haunts me. It does.
Feeling that never leaves.
Ugh.
My worst one was when I used to do that Saturday night show on ABC Columbia where it's just a bunch of highlights.
Yeah.
I'd be getting into the first. We would do like the most highlights we could for the Gamecocks, which was like 3 minutes. But it would be the first of like at least like 10 or 11 straight minutes of just highlights out of the gate. I remember a time or two I get to the point where I have to cough. And I'm in the middle of the first highlight. And there is no break in sight. And I'm just
yeah.
Not good. And you don't forget.
It did. Man, I'm struggling right now. I'm not sick. I'm just all this stuff that's, I guess, I'm not sick at all. Going to the beach today with the kids.
Nice work, Hope. Next time we need to get you to weigh in on the 107.5 The Bar. Just pop in, say hi. You don't have to talk much. I think Anthony from Kershaw played it the best last night. Hanging out.
That's right. It's pretty chill.
Trey, yes, this is a Saved by the Bell t-shirt for the Bayside Tigers. No one has checked on Patrick that I know of. Have you guys checked on Patrick?
Not checked on Patrick.
Wake him up. He
Let him sleep.
Tweeting furiously last night. Got his classic best available today tweet out, I think, after the end of the first round. I'm hoping he's back until about 11:40 today when he can run in and produce the noon show.
I felt like we should have put some kind of like padding on his walls because I just felt like he was just pinging and like just literally bouncing off the walls.
That was great.
Wired dude. That's awesome.
For about a 5-pick stretch there, his reaction before the pick was made, or before I saw the pick anyway, was, oh, no way.
Well, that was funny because he completely broke down. What do you think? 2 or 3 picks in, and just started looking at his phone because we were all watching it streaming. So if you were on Twitter or something, you knew well before what we were doing, what was happening. And he just completely broke down, started following it.
Yep. Guys are up.
We kick off the second half of the show with one of the big questions from last night. Really the only intrigue, I think, in that first pick. So, Bill, I didn't see it as we were doing the 107.5 The Bar live stream, trying to keep my eyes on 2 different things. But it was pointed out during the live stream that Darius Rucker was at Trevor Lawrence's draft party last night in his house. Rucker, the most famous Gamecock fan there is, kind of curious that he was hanging out with Trevor Lawrence. Did you see it in real time? Because to me, this was all kind of confusing as it was going on last night.
I didn't see it in real time. I didn't really know about it until I think some people said something about it on the live stream as we were doing it last night. I kind of wasn't really paying attention to Twitter. Every once in a while I'd pop on and I saw some people say it. I didn't really think anything about it at the time. And, man,
So you saw the
celebrities.
explanation.
I actually didn't see that. What was it?
He's with, is it MGC? Is that the company? Basically, it's a company that helps athletes adjust to wealth and fame and all that kind of stuff. So
Gotcha.
maybe it was representing them.
Yeah, somebody just sent me a text said they're represented by the same agency.
Okay.
Yeah, the crazy part in my life is the Yahoo article that was talking about that was getting the information from former ABC Columbia intern Scott Eisberg, who's now the sports director down at WCIV in Charleston, and is somehow buddies with Darius Rucker to some degree, or certainly knows a lot about it. So he was the one who put that out, I think, on Twitter first to give the explanation basically to the entire world of why Darius Rucker, frontman of Hootie and the Blowfish and most notable Gamecock fan there is, was hanging out at Trevor Lawrence's draft party just in the background. Good for him.
And can I just say, Trevor Lawrence, his facial expressions, his robotic, smug, I want his clock cleaned once in the NFL. There's something about him that I'm trying really hard to, I'm happy for the guy, I'm happy for his family, but his reaction was just stone-faced. I don't know, just irritated me. I have issues.
Wow.
Thank you for letting me get that off my chest.
Good, Jensen, ladies and gentlemen. And endearing herself even more to the Gamecock fan base. To me, Trevor Lawrence last night was who he's been. And, we talked about the Sports Illustrated article that came out, Bill, about him basically putting it out there that football doesn't define him and that people who put the chip on the shoulder are not necessarily the healthiest, and it's not the best way to handle things. And there's also the story now about his older brother, as an artist, and has kind of a big impact on him. That was also part of that Sports Illustrated story. What do you make of Trevor Lawrence now, number 1 overall pick and Jacksonville Jaguars franchise quarterback?
I mean, how does he handle the transition now? And there's going to be a big transition. I saw the tweet that came out yesterday. I forget which national writer put it out, and it might have been a Georgia recruiting guy, might have been Rusty Manziel, but that his first loss with Jacksonville, unless he goes 17-0, will be his first loss ever in the regular season. I don't think he ever lost a regular season game in high school, and obviously didn't lose a regular season game at Clemson. So, there's going to be a transition for him. And there's going to be a transition for Urban Meyer. This is what I was talking about yesterday when I was kind of wondering about his career. It has nothing to do with the talent. The talent is there. It has to do with the transition to Jacksonville to start with, the transition to a guy like Urban Meyer who is transitioning to the NFL. And we know the college coaches, by and large, struggle. I mean, Jimmy Johnson and Pete Carroll are the two guys who have done the best. Am I right on that? I guess maybe throw Barry Switzer in there.
Yeah, that was the name I was going to add in. But from a longevity perspective, you can't really argue that he had a great NFL career. So,
I just say that it's, to me, it feels like the chips are stacked against Trevor to have this great career because of where he went. If he gone, let's say, just hypothetically, this is what we're talking about. For some reason, San Francisco had the number 1 pick, and you had Kyle Shanahan, and you had that franchise, the 49ers, who, I think is a well-run franchise who's got good management, good leadership. I would be looking at it going, all right, this guy's got a chance to have one of the best, quarterbacking careers ever, because look who's surrounding him. Well, now you go to Jacksonville again, you get a coach in Urban Meyer, and Urban's gonna have to learn the NFL game. So there's a lot of things to it that I think are outside of Trevor's just pure high level talent. And so we'll see how the transition for him. And of course, there's going to be adversity. There's going to be adversity. That's going to be another thing to watch.
Speaking of adversity, classic text in on the Cool Care Heating and Air text line, 1 minute apart. Teddy D, go Jen. Mad respect for you, girl. Love and agree with your take on Trevor Lawrence. 1 minute later, RJ. Quote, I want his clock clean. Come on, Jen. Get off your high horse. This kid has done nothing but be a complete professional. Put your biased, wrong feelings away. I mean, I could make that up. And Hope seems to be right in the middle on this. She says Urban and Trevor will be okay together. Bill, I'm with you as far as the combination in Urban Meyer with Trevor Lawrence. I think it's impossible to come away with a different evaluation at this point in his career, other than Trevor Lawrence is different. And he is much closer to those top 3 quarterback prospects that he's thrown into, supposed to, kind of build as the 4th best quarterback prospect ever, maybe, or the best since Andrew Luck most recently, and it was Peyton Manning and John Elway before him. Obviously, all those guys had good careers. You had the Super Bowl winning careers and the MVP careers of Peyton Manning and John Elway. Not quite that for Andrew Luck, even though he got pretty close, just got cut short because of injury and the early retirement. But doing it with a guy coming from college who hasn't been in the NFL and doing it with that Jacksonville franchise is a little different. Now, all the draft picks that they have, and last night pairing your own running back in the first round with the quarterback with Travis Etienne is a really interesting move. And one of the reasons why that Jacksonville job was so attractive was they had 5 picks, I think, in the first 65 or something like that in this draft. And the flexibility that they have now to kind of redefine their team through this draft and this offseason is a huge advantage for Urban Meyer and company. I have a lot more confidence right now in Trevor Lawrence player than I do in Urban Meyer as an NFL coach. Are you with me on that?
Sorry, I was coughing. Say that again, because I'm looking something up that I find interesting. So I was listening to you, but say that again. You have more confidence?
I have much more confidence that Trevor Lawrence will be a better NFL player than Urban Meyer will be an NFL coach.
No, I'm with you on that. I was trying to look real quick just to see the guys that we've named. Peyton Manning, his rookie year, he played for Jim Mora, which was a pretty good. Mora had been around the NFL, pretty good guy. I mean, that's
playoffs.
Yeah, of course, he's known for that. I'm trying to look and see who the coach was for Andrew Luck in his first season. And hopefully I'll come across it in a minute. I'm trying to listen to you and scan here very, very quickly to see who the head coach was.
Well, but he might not have been or still with the Colts, but way back then. Feel free to yell at your radio. That's just a guess off the top of my head. Go ahead, though. Where are you going with that? Just the pairing of those quarterbacks with their coaches?
Yeah. I was looking. It does say that. I'll find it here probably during the break. But I was looking at those guys that have been talked about: John Elway, Peyton Manning, and Andrew Luck. That's the class in terms of guys coming into the NFL that Trevor Lawrence is being lumped with, in terms of pure talent, just great quarterbacks to go into the NFL. And I was just trying to look very quickly to see who the head coach was and how much experience that head coach has in the NFL, because to me, it's a really fascinating kind of equation here with Urban Meyer. I don't know if controversial is the right word, but one of the more intriguing college coaches we've seen in the last 20 years, maybe last 30 years.
A lot of adjectives in there, right? Yeah. Successful has to be in there as well, but then also kind of divisive. I think there are those who love Urban Meyer. I think maybe the Ohio State last fans I don't even know if there are those who love him. I don't know if Florida fans still love him.
Yeah.
But appreciate him might be the best way to put that. And then I can't think of Urban Meyer without using the word intense. And it's like intensity gone wrong, where it kind of derails your life to some degree. Right.
And so I'm looking there because knowing how to handle the structure of the NFL, how to coach in the NFL, because there is a difference. I've talked to a couple people who've coached in obviously college and the NFL, and it is a different level of coaching, different style of play. And Urban Meyer trying to make that transition, I think, is very, very interesting, especially when you look at his staff. And it was his defensive staff that stood out to me that had so many college names like Chris Ash, Charlie Strong, and Tosh Lupoi, all there as guys who came from the college level and going to the NFL level. So again, really interesting to see that combination. And I think it's very interesting just to see Urban Meyer coaching in the NFL come September.
It looks like Chuck Pagano might have been the Colts coach even back in 2012 from what I looked up. That might not be right. I'll continue to try to look this thing up. Has it really been there that long? Wow, that's surprising if that's actually what it is, but that's how it works when I look up stuff from years ago. Jeremy says, random, but what does Andrew Luck do now? Thought about that when they showed a picture of him during the draft last night, but I looked it up and I haven't seen any kind of update other than apparently the Colts reached out to him at some point during the last offseason before making the Carson Wentz trade and the whole thing. So just I guess make sure. Hey, you're sure you don't want to come back? The whole thing. That's got to be an odd position to be in. Andrew Luck is a really interesting guy, and his dad Oliver has had success as a professional football player and has been a big-time athletic director. Has worked in some professional leagues as well. He just had kind of a different worldview, I think, than a lot of just humans in general, but certainly a lot of football players, and has a lot of interests out there. I don't think has a problem keeping himself busy these days. For reaction coming from Jen's take about Trevor Lawrence, Jamie says, I'm with Jen. I want to see Lawrence get the snot knocked out of him. I think that's a natural Gamecock perspective on Trevor Lawrence in a lot of ways. The Clemson perspective of him now moving on is a really interesting one as well that Neil has. He says, I can't stand Urban Meyer. I'm really having some internal conflict pulling for Trevor and hoping that Urban is out of the league quickly. Yeah, both of those things are going to be difficult to happen with the current marriage that is moving forward down in Jacksonville. We'll continue to discuss as we roll on this morning. 803-404-6100. If you would like to join the show, you can call or text. It's the early game here on 107.5.
Big weekend for me, heading out of town, taking the kids to the beach, going to spend a little time with them. For you, it might be searching for that new home. You might be thinking about making a move. Interest rates, they're going to start rising. They're already starting to rise a little bit. You still have a golden opportunity in front of you. And if you've been thinking about buying that dream home, now's the time to see what you can become approved for. Get in touch with the mortgage guru, Jacob Crowder with First Palmetto Bank, 803-719-1005. A lot of people purchasing homes right now. So many, in fact, that Jacob's brought along a good buddy, Brian Kovar, to help the demand for people looking to get financing. And again, see what they can become approved for, how much they can save. Don't miss the boat here on this golden opportunity. Get in touch with Jacob and Brian today. 803-719-1005. You can email them the letter J, Crowder, CROWDER at firstpalmetto.com. That phone number again, 803-719-1005. You're looking to refinance? Again, it's an excellent time to do it. You don't want to miss a great opportunity. These interest rates, they're already starting to rise a little bit. They're going to go up more. You can save $200, $300, $400 when you get in touch with Jacob Crowder and see what he can do for you and your family. 803-719-1005. He's the mortgage guru, Jacob Crowder, with First Palmetto Bank. All right, Tim, it looks like the Colts thing is very interesting. Chuck Pagano was in his first year as head coach with Andrew Luck, but he was being treated for cancer. So the actual head coach was Bruce Arians.
Oh, that's right. That was the year?
That was the year, 2012.
Wow. And Craig, it was Caldwell was done in 2011, so right before then. Dungy's last year with the Colts was 2008. So Caldwell was there from 09 to 11, 3 seasons. I was wrong on that one as well. Yeah, Trey, I think a lot of people are there. Not Jen necessarily, but a lot of people.
I got a feeling later on, not that I'll look, I'm going to be too busy, but Jen Jensen will end up on Clemson message boards.
Yeah,
Female
fantastic.
producer in Columbia wants to see Trevor Lawrence lose a leg.
Exactly. Exactly.
Decapitated? What?
Yeah.
Yep. I'll be run out of town by 5.
Or elected new princess of Columbia. Probably it could be both. You could be elected princess first, elected,
The highs of the highs and the lows of the lows.
and then run out of town. Maybe it'll go in reverse.
It is true. You could have a bunch of people waiting outside the studio either to put you on their shoulders and carry you down into the vista to celebrate or to throw rocks at you. One of the two.
Exactly.
Or you have both of them getting rocks thrown at you and weighted down.
Hey, I'll just watch all of them fight and I'll walk away, you know.
There you go. Oh.
He'll be more successful and have more money than I'll ever be able to fathom. So, you know, kudos to him.
That's part of the whole wouldn't be too bad in our human nature to see him knock down a peg or two, right?
Yep. I think after he loses his first game, I'll feel better. And then it'll be like, okay, go on with your business.
Well, and much different than the Steve Spurrier way, like just seems to be like such a good human being.
Yeah.
Like in a non-traditional quarterback kind of way as well. Like that's what the story is about his brother and being an artist and having that effect on him and the whole thing.
And I have read more about like his wife and things that they're doing. And he does genuinely seem to be like a good guy. Like I think they're going to want to make a good, you know, carve out a good path and do, you know, positive things and stuff like that. And that then just makes me mad because you know, I want to dislike him and then that's just going to take that away from it. So, you know, but it does seem like they're going to be a nice couple, or they are. Dang it.
How about our buddy Jim, the Clemson fan, always just digging a knife in. His line of thinking cracks me up. He just texted, "Where will Jake Bentley go in this year's NFL draft?"
This year's?
Yeah. Again,
Not really worried about it.
Just digging the knife in, Bill. He's not looking for legit answers.
No. Well, obviously, because
He gets you every time.
He doesn't. I didn't see it, but obviously he doesn't know that Jake is still in college.
No, I think obviously he does.
Yeah.
Does he? You think he does? You think he follows it that closely? I don't give him the credit for that anymore.
Got to be quick here, correct?
Yep.
Quick.
Yep. All right, you're up.
Hope asks, do we expect a Gamecock to go in round 2 or round 3 today in the NFL draft? I think the quick answer there, Bill, would you agree? We do not expect a Gamecock to get drafted tonight?
I don't know. Ernest Jones, we've seen him projected, what was it, one mock draft him in the 3rd round. Shi Smith, I guess, could move up into the 3rd round. I mean, I think if you were asking me yes or no, I'd probably bet no, but I wouldn't be surprised or shocked.
Hour number 3 coming up.
Oh,
Stop there, Chris.
oh yeah, the Derby. The Derby is this weekend.
Exactly, Chris. Thank you.
Get your hats on and your mint juleps ready. Derby time.
And I think Trevor Lawrence is kind of like Kyle Busch to me. I can't stand him on the track, but the more I learn about him off the track and some of the charitable organizations and just some of what he and his wife have done as far as like infertility and stuff, dang it, I gotta respect him.
Yeah, speaking of that, I totally dropped the ball yesterday on the Kentucky Derby discussion with Carrie. We'll have to do that next week.
Definitely.
I'll have to take up my personal beef with mint and juleps straight to Carrie. Tell them to be ready to defend the mint and julep.
Exactly.
Ugh. Even thinking about it puts me in a bad mood.
Just sugar.
Thinking about a mint julep?
Yeah.
It just puts you in a bad mood?
Yeah.
Oh.
Because the idea of it being a unique drink and a great way to celebrate a tremendous sporting event, I love it. And then I take a sip of that thing. Oh, a couple of different times. It's just so bad.
Grinch number 2 is weighing in. Grinch number 2.
Yeah, good call, Hope. I think it's the second best odds to win.
That's pretty awesome.
And if you haven't seen the story, it's a great story. The reason that the Carolina logo is on the horse is because of that scholarship, that walk-on football scholarship that's now been endowed. The former Gamecock grad. I guess he lives up in Connecticut. His 16-year-old son was one of his goals in life, or one of his dreams was to go walk on down at South Carolina. And unfortunately, he passed away. He was killed in a car accident tragically, and Shane Beamer recently helping to get that and to make that happen. Great article on the Athletic about it. If you haven't seen it, I know Joe Gorcho did a story on it for WIS as well, and it's out there if you want to read or see more about it for sure. Jake Panis is the name of the scholarship, the name of the 16-year-old who tragically died. And Chad, if we kept doing these live streams, I would not make it, man. I can do the early morning schedule, but I can't do the early morning and late night schedule. I can do the late night schedule, early morning schedule. I can't do them consistently.
Mm-mm.
What are you watching, Bill?
Not top 10.
Any good ones?
Yeah, there was a baseball player up at Amherst that dude hit a home run, but the guy, when he hit it, the left fielder thought he'd be able to make a play on the ball, so he just turned and he started running back, but he was watching the ball and ran right through the fence. It was kind of one of those just smashed through the fence, because it's kind of one of those temporary fences that they have. And then they showed what happened there? Oh, then the Giants base runner who ran over his third base coach and got tagged out at the plate. Number 1 is soccer. And they're showing a soccer player who got hit in the bad area and is laying on the ground right in front of the goal, and he gets hit with the soccer ball 2 more times. He's just laying on the ground, rolling around. That was pretty good. Couple good ones there.
Good question, Hope. We'll talk about it here coming up, but it's a big one for both programs in a lot of ways. It's going to be tough. I'm looking forward to watching the environment there, the old celebrations of the home runs at Swayze Field and the beers flying are awesome. From the Gamecock perspective, I know you don't want to see this. Good call, Sonny. I think we'll eventually get there for sure. A couple of guests pop on. Skylar Meade's the best way to do it. Now that we have the audio situation figured out, I think we can definitely do that.
But does it go back the other way? Like if somebody popped on the live stream, you wouldn't be able to hear it on the radio, right?
Right. I mean, we could pull it up via the internet computer or whatever, but it wouldn't sound as good. We just have them call in.
Got it. Oh, I see what you're saying. Oh, thought I was gearing up for another really good sneeze there.
Yeah, that's a good point, Hope. I don't think there are many baseball players anywhere at any level that have gone through the environment that Carolina is about to step into in the last, 18 months or whatever it's been. So just 2 breaks this hour is what I'm reading, Jen, correct?
Yes.
Thank you.
And 0 res in AAA.
Great point, Clemson Shaw. Great point. Yourself included, obviously.
Oh. Steph Curry with 96 3-point field goals made in April. Ridiculous.
Hello, Friday morning. Feels a lot different of a Friday to those of us who stayed up late last night watching the NFL draft. This is almost more like a Monday feel for me, Bill, with all the information we got. We come in on Mondays a lot of times, especially during football season. That's what this feels like. We got so much information out there, so much stuff to talk about. It's difficult to choose exactly which one to throw in first and go from there. And that's how I feel this morning, especially because of J.C. Horn going number 8 overall last night to the Carolina Panthers. It was Trey Lance at 3, which really got the draft going because everybody knew Trevor Lawrence was going to be number 1. Everybody knew Zach Wilson was going to be number 2. But then what the 49ers ended up doing, was it going to be Mac Jones? Was it going to be Justin Fields? Clearly, no is the answer to those. And Trey Lance, the North Dakota State quarterback, is where they went. That really got things going. Falcons, I think, a bit of a mystery, but kind of did what most people thought they would do at number 4 and go with Kyle Pitts now to be paired as a tight end duo with former Gamecock Hayden Hurst in Atlanta. Should be interesting. A couple of wide receivers from the SEC going after that with Jamar Chase and Jalen Waddle, Bengals and Dolphins respectively. The Lions going probably the most responsible there in an offensive lineman with Penei Sewell dropping maybe a little bit farther than some thought at number 7. And then it was the Panthers at 8. They were in a really interesting position because this offseason, we've talked a lot. The entire football public has talked a lot about the Carolina Panthers and being very interested in Deshaun Watson. And then within the last, whatever it's been, 6 weeks or so, the offseason the off the field offseason mess that Deshaun Watson is going through now, kind of really not making that an option. So I'm impressed that the Panthers have pivoted, and they did it as decisively as they did, getting Sam Darnold in, getting Teddy Bridgewater out to the Denver Broncos. So to me, they answered the quarterback situation. They didn't put themselves, I guess they were still in the position to go after a Justin Fields or a Mac Jones, but they didn't put themselves in that position and made that pick last night, which I think would have really caused a bit of crisis of confidence in the fan base, saying, all right, what are you doing? I thought you just told us Sam Darnold's going to be your guy. And now you're at number 8 overall. What are you drafting, a backup quarterback? That doesn't make any sense. or you're drafting the quarterback of the future, and Darnold's not the guy now, and so it didn't make sense to go there. It would have made sense to get him some protection because offensive line is a big issue, and yet the value of the number 8 overall pick didn't seem to be there last night outside of Penei Sewell. Rashawn Slater, I think, the next offensive lineman taken, and that didn't happen until down at 13. So it made a lot of sense for the Panthers to go with another area of need, which was cornerback. And it happened to be they just went right down I-77 a few miles and took J.C. Horn, 5th highest Gamecock drafted all time, which is hard for me to even wrap my brain around as I say it, Bill. J.C. Horn, 5th highest Gamecock ever drafted, only the 2 number 1 picks in George Rogers and Jadeveon Clowney, and then 2 number 7 overall picks in Sterling Sharp and Troy Williamson drafted high. So my question to you, I guess, knowing all of that, is what kind of environment do you feel like J.C. Horn steps into with the Carolina Panthers? A lot of expectations, I think, and a lot of help really around him as well. It seems to me to be a pretty stable franchise on the rise with a coaching staff and a front office that seems to be aligned right now and heading in the right direction. How do you see it?
Yeah, I mean, there is that part. What you're saying is what I agree with in terms right now of the direction of the organization with both David Tepper and with Matt Rule. The question is the clearly the Panthers are building for defense. I'm trying to see, last year they were about middle of the pack, closer a little bit to the back end in yards given up through the air. They allowed 239 yards per game
passing against them. So just kind of glancing the statistics here, just 7 interceptions last year, and they gave up 28 touchdowns. So obviously continuing to work on that secondary. That is a franchise right now. It's a franchise that needs help in a lot of different places. There are some pieces there. Had if they drafted a quarterback, Tim, I kind of disagree with you on this. We know the importance of a quarterback for a franchise. Jen and I, all of us were talking about it earlier, but we were talking about Jen's Bears and the mistakes on Trubisky. We'll see if Justin Fields is the guy, but the Bears are searching for that quarterback to lead them. The Panthers, I think, are in the same boat. Had if they taken Mac Jones or Justin Fields last night, I'd be sitting here understanding it. You've got 2 young guys. One of them has got to work out. That's the way I'd be looking at it. That Joe Brady has got 2 young guys he could throw out there on the practice field, let competition work itself out, and you'd know who your starting quarterback would be. So I wouldn't have minded had if they done that. I'd have been a little surprised just because, again, we talked about the fact that they needed other spots. They could use a wide receiver, especially after losing Curtis Samuel. They could use help on the offensive line, especially at tackle. So I would have been surprised that the quarterback, just because I didn't think it was the highest priority. But I honestly didn't think defensive back was the highest priority either. So taking J.C. Horn, great for him. But at the same time, I think it shows me where the Panthers' line of thinking is. And I think that's building through defense, you're never going to complain about that.
To me, you get the best player out there. And Scott Fitterer, the new GM there for the Panthers, said J.C. Horn was number 1 on their board, and they got him. And had Justin Fields or Mac Jones been a surefire guy, then I'd be with that. But everything that first-round quarterback picks have been in the NFL draft tells me that that's just not a wise move. And if they had done that, Bill, then you've got the situation that they're avoiding now. If you wanted quarterback competition, you keep Teddy Bridgewater in there, a veteran guy who is certainly serviceable, good, not great, and you have him there to push Sam Darnold. But I think the Carolina Panthers and Matt Rule, David Tepper understand that, well, when it comes down to an actual football locker room, then you got guys kind of split. You got some guys behind the veteran guy that has started and played a lot. You got some guys behind the new guy coming in. If you would have had 2 new guys coming in now, Sam Darnold and Fields or Mac Jones, then I think it's only natural that you would have a bit of a split locker room. And it just seems a lot cleaner to go in this way from the Panthers' perspective.
Well,
and I think it sets up J.C. Horn for success as well, because he's not seen as the savior necessarily. All he has to do is what he's done his entire Gamecock career. Go out and be a good corner. That's all you got to do.
Well, two things on this. One, with J.C. Horn, I don't know any time a defensive back comes into an organization if they're viewed as the savior. It's just not a position that's necessarily viewed as a savior. So I don't think he was entering that way. Two, and this is interesting. I wonder, both with Miami and with the Panthers, and maybe you can throw a few other franchises in there, not moving on a quarterback. Now Chicago moved on one last night with Justin Fields. The feeling I get is that Deshaun Watson, as he works out everything that's going on in Houston, as he works it out, is off the market for now. And that both Miami and the Panthers can sit back right now and look around and say, okay, what does Tua look like for us for one more year in Miami? What does Sam Darnold look like for me, for the Panthers, for 1 year? Let's give him a 1 year trial. Because this is just me. This is just kind of trying to read the tea leaves, not based on any articles or talking to anybody, but it feels like it would be next summer before you have a legitimate shot to pull Deshaun Watson if he gets out of everything that he's in. Does that make sense? Do you agree with that? I don't know if he'll play this year or not, but what he's got to do is work through these legal issues, and it's going to be a year before you decide whether you want to get him. So you've got almost like tryouts, not just for Tua and Sam Darnold, but maybe a few other organizations out there looking. Maybe the Saints are looking at Jameis Winston in the same light. But you can stick with that and go, man, next summer we may be here for the Deshaun Watson sweepstakes if he's able to get all this cleared up.
Yeah, it's a big if. I think every organization had to hit pause on that.
Right.
You had to hit pause, and I don't think any of them hit stop and delete and are definitely not going to go in that direction if it works out like you mentioned, and the best possible way for Deshaun Watson. There's just so many question marks in so many different ways. I don't think an organization could have possibly felt comfortable or look good from a PR perspective in going in that way this offseason, like it started for sure. 803-404-6100 is the number into the program. I want to get out to the Love Chevy phone lines now. Scott up first here in hour number 3 talking NFL draft. Hey, Scott.
Hey, guys. You know, I got an off-the-wall question, and I'm curious what your thoughts are. We see these folks that opt out of bowl games and they prepare for the NFL draft and everything, and we look at it as a positive because you're obviously not putting yourself with an opportunity to get hurt for one more game. But I'm thinking of one of our running backs at UNC. I'm a UNC fan, Javonte Williams and Carter, who both set out of a bowl game against a top 6 football team. And I almost wonder if setting out didn't hurt Javonte a little bit for the fact that you're playing an A&M team. You go out there and dice them up for 150, 200 yards in that bowl game and have a Miami-like game like they had previous, and you put a bunch of touchdowns on the board without sharing the field with Carter. Does that put you in front of Harris and ETN? I like ETN being picked by the Jags because obviously there's some, obviously him and his quarterback are going to be together again and continue to grow. But do you think, obviously he didn't play against any big-time SEC defenses. If he'd have went out there and sliced and diced them, could it have made it better, especially with him running maybe a little slower on the 40-yard dash, but obviously great at, breaking that first tackle and getting additional yards and being a pounder. I thought he'd be a perfect fit for the Pittsburgh Steelers because of them always having those pounding-type running backs. Just wanted to hear what you guys thought about that. And I almost feel like maybe that game cost him, and he didn't have a lot of wear and tear. He's been sharing the ball with Carter his whole career at UNC.
Appreciate the phone call, Scott. Bill, I think it's very clear with where the NFL draft has gone recently that a bowl decision is not held against prospects. The end of their college career is not focused on from the organizational league perspective like it is from the fan perspective. J.C. Horn, a great example. You go up the list in the NFL draft here. Trey Lance didn't have a good last game in his one little exhibition there for North Dakota State. Clearly, Trevor Lawrence's career didn't end on the field how he wanted to. Zach Wilson didn't thrive down the stretch there. Jamar Chase didn't even play last year. So talk about all these guys at the top of the NFL draft where you can't. This is a Ronaldo Balkman situation. I feel like Scott's talking about, right? Where you have a great finish to your college career and really improve your draft stock. I just don't think it happens that often in the NFL, especially at the top of the NFL.
Well, I think you're to me, and I could be wrong. I think you're misunderstanding what he's saying because I think what Scott's saying there is a very interesting point about playing in the what would have been the Orange Bowl, the Capital One Orange Bowl against Texas A&M. And I feel like what he's asking, and I could be wrong, is the fact that both running backs opted out. And I was trying to go back and look real quick to see the most carries that Javonte Williams had all season. I think a perfect example of what Scott's talking about is what we just watched last Sunday. A little different, but when you had Kevin Harris out, you had Marshawn Lloyd out, you had Rashad Amos out, and Zaquandre White gets the bulk of the carries. And what ends up happening is we now look at Zaquandre White a little bit differently because he had an opportunity to do it all by himself, to shine and do it all by himself. And I think I could be wrong. That's Scott's point. Not that he sat out the bowl game and it was held against him, but that the opportunity to go and maybe get more carries. I'm just looking against Miami. Javonte Williams had 23 carries for 236 yards. He had 19 carries in a game. He had 20 carries in a game. So he did get a lot of carries, but maybe I think what Scott's kind of hinting at is if he gets more carries in that game, in that bowl game against Texas A&M and gets a little bit more film, maybe he does something a little bit more that impresses an NFL scout. He did have 157 carries this past year. We're talking about Javonte Williams, running back North Carolina. That's a lot, right? That's plenty of film. I don't know if he was going to show anything in one more game, but I do understand his point about getting one more game in there. Not that it was held against him that he sat out, but one more game with film or showing scouts that maybe he could have done something a little bit more. It looks like Israel Mukuamu, who had a good career, but he's still living off of that Georgia game, right? Like that's the one that one game you feel like from Mukuamu is the one that's really put him on the map for the NFL.
Oh, he also started at Carolina for the bulk of 3 seasons. It's not like he just came in and had one random game. And my point, I understand what Scott was driving at, but the point is that you would be a terrible NFL evaluator if you were massively swayed by one final game in a college career. And I get it as fans. We see ACC defenses much different than SEC defenses, but I don't think you do that in the NFL. There were plenty of top-level talented guys that Javonte Williams and any other running back in college football went against. One SEC defense, one performance against an SEC defense is not going to completely change or just wow an organization. If it does, you're a terrible organization. You're evaluating things the wrong way. You have so much to go off of. I think, if anything, not playing in bowl games, what we've seen through the years helps guys stock because what do you got? Christian McCaffrey, Leonard Fournette, first guys to do it, right? They didn't have any problem getting drafted high. So I understand it from the fan perspective. I get it that we might hang on it. I just don't think NFL evaluators do. And I think the results of this draft and previous drafts here in the last few years are great evidence towards that.
Tim, you say that, but it was the Raiders who watched Darius Hayward-Bay from Maryland run really fast in a 40. They watched one. They didn't go back and watch the film. And they said, yeah, that guy, top 10 pick.
Oh, I know.
We're going to take him.
And that worked out great for him, right? I think these NFL organizations probably put more stock in pro day numbers than they do, especially in a final game or a bowl game performance on the field. And that makes my brain hurt a lot.
I mean, again, you had Mitch Trubisky. We touched on him today. One season at North Carolina, and the Bears fall in love with him, and they take him over more proven college players than Deshaun Watson and Patrick Mahomes. And I mean, I understand but I feel like you're giving NFL franchises a little bit too much credit for scouting and doing their homework and doing their research when some guys just like look around and be like, yeah, that guy's really fast, or boy, man, that guy's got big hands. Oh, he's got arm talent.
Right. But they do that more in the combine or the measurables as opposed to one performance in a final game. Like Scott was asking, specifically for North Carolina versus Texas A&M, where I just don't think you're going to prove you're not going to make significant amounts of money at the end of your college career based off of one game performance, no matter who you're playing, who you are. I think that the tape is kind of in at that point. It's more, I think these guys are probably doing it right because of what you said, Bill. They're focusing more on, all right, let's start training for this ridiculously overhyped job interview that is the NFL Combine or Pro Day.
Yeah, maybe. I don't know. I mean, again, these guys, the NFL, they get into this. You kind of made fun of it the last few weeks with just information being leaked out and this being said, that being said, and, arm talent, hand size, all those funny things that you and I kind of laugh about that Patrick gets really worked up and fired up about. We'll see. I will say this for Javonte Williams. Patrick labeled him, I think, what he did, his 5 sleepers Wednesday or Thursday. What was that? We put it up on the board. He had Javonte Williams going in the second round, but he did point out he thought that would be a steal even in the second round for somebody. So I'm with you. The young man will get his chance. We're not talking about falling to the 4th or 5th round here. He's still going to be drafted about where he was projected.
Scott, appreciate the phone call. 803-404-6100 is the number if you would like to weigh in. CB, for instance, on the Cool Care Heating and Air text line. Love the horn pick for the Panthers. Darnold gets a 1-year tryout. If we stink, then the hometown boy and Sam Howell will get to go to the Carolina Panthers next year. Neil wanted to point out, how about Bill Belichick and the Patriots just sticking at number 15, picking Matt Jones, a quarterback? Belichick reminds me of Warren Buffett, Neil says, calmly sitting back, waiting for his opportunity while others around him are scrambling and panicking. Yeah, it did work out perfectly, I think, for the Patriots sitting at 15 there to get Mac Jones and at least a solid option moving forward. Now it's all Auburn and Alabama there for the New England Patriots and their quarterback with Jarrett Stidham in the mix, along with Cam Newton and Mac Jones as well. And another anonymous take on the Cool Care Heating and Air text line as it pertains to J.C. Horn. I'm conflicted as a Gamecock fan and Panthers fan. Thrilled that Horn went that early, but I think the Panthers reached picking him that early. Albert on the other end of that says, as a Gamecock and Panthers fan, I love the Horn pick. Very good defensive back. They're building up the defense. Again, 803-404-6100 if you would like to get your takes in. The numbers as it pertains to J.C. Horn and being a Gamecock highly picked player in the NFL draft. We'll break down some of those numbers for you for J.C. Horn, also for the draft at large last night. That was significant in multiple ways, with quarterbacks, with picks from one team going, multiple picks from one team. That's coming up next here. It's the early game. It's 107.5 The Game.
The home of the Gamecocks and new head football coach, Shane Beamer.
I'm a process-driven person, and we're going to get started day one, advancing this program and making it better.
107.
Yesterday, again, it happened. The 1-year-old was waddling around all over the place. I'm chasing after him, and then I forget what it even was. I had to lose track of all his cookies yesterday. Somehow he just grabbed his brother's oatmeal raisin cookie, and then that thing got crumbled. It got all over the place. The floor's a mess, and bust out the vacuum yesterday. So that's the amateur way to get the floors looking good. Fortunately, we've had the professional help at my house several times with Zero Res carpet and air duct cleaning coming out to my house. They've done a great job cleaning my carpets. They've cleaned an area rug for me, also the tiles in both the kitchen and the bathroom. Impressive results. Really impressed my wife. Not easy to do, by the way, but it's how Zero Res does it differently than anybody else. That's the especially important part to us at our family, because we got those little guys running around on the carpets, especially the 1-year-old picking up stuff, trying to put it in his mouth no matter what we do. No harsh chemicals involved in the cleaning process for Zero Res. They have a patented powered water system. They crank up the pH in the water. You can check out ZeroResColumbia.com for all the details on that. No leftover soapy residue. I've kept my carpets cleaner longer. They can do that for you as well. And they've got a great deal for you right now. 3 rooms of carpet clean for only $119 plus a free hallway. When you mention me, Tim Hill, just go to ZeroResColumbia.com. You can book your appointment online right now, or you can give them a call at 803-262-4020. It's Zero Res. Spell it backwards or forwards. It's the right way to clean. Y'all think they were first rounders? Who's Danny talking about? Who were we talking about? Maybe the North Carolina running backs? Running backs are so weird right now, man. That's where Patrick goes off on his tangent, where you get undrafted guys in there and they can produce, like the Jacksonville situation, and that's why he doesn't like Travis Etienne going there. Me, if you get a legit guy, I don't care where you draft him. He's going to be your guy moving forward. Do it. But, yeah, first-round draft picks from the running back perspective haven't been those guys, man. Leonard Fournette, Christian McCaffrey, I feel like is the exception. Fournette's kind of more like the rule. Will be interesting because we have the two opposite organizations right now that did it last night, right? The Steelers, stable, productive, always good. And then the Jaguars, the next pick with Etienne, the opposite. Was that a cookie that I saw there, Bill? What you got going there?
One of these little mini bite muffins, something to snack on here because I got a busy morning to get out of town.
What time are you trying to get out?
Well, since I'm coming back Monday, I'm going to have the kids stay in school all day, not get them out early. So do that. And then Austin badly needs a haircut. So I'm going to bounce out of town. So there'll probably be,
Taking scissors with you to the beach?
The shave or whatever. You know what I'm talking about. Nah, I've got somebody. Get Candace to do it. I was looking, you were just talking about Leonard Fournette. I don't think he's had I guess compared to what you would want.
No, he hasn't been a bad NFL running back, but compare him to Alvin Kamara.
No, I agree with that. Well, but Kamara's a different guy.
Third rounder.
But I'll tell you, Fournette's had injury issue. But, he took so many carries at LSU. Remember that? That was a big deal about that.
Yeah. Yeah, that's why I think those North Carolina guys are going to be good, man.
I'm with you. I'm with you.
Oh. So I'm wondering what the Bears are trying to do. It's concerning to me. I know Justin Fields wore number 1 collegiately. They're putting him in number 1 for the Bears. But I just saw, do you know who last wore number 1? Cody Parkey.
There you go.
The doink.
Tim, how many more weeks of Little League Baseball y'all got?
Still a couple more weeks. Saturday game this weekend.
Saturday game, all right.
I think it's 2 more weeks after that.
Nothing like a little Saturday afternoon baseball. Cowtails and Gatorades, buddy. Cowtails and Gatorades.
Yeah, Chad, how is that a shock, man? It would be a shock if Green Bay picked the wide receiver instead of a defensive guy. 9 out of the last 10 years, they've gone defense in the first round. The only time they have it is Jordan Love, quarterback. Especially with where Aaron Rodgers was going. Like, I feel like that was just we can't give Rodgers a first-round wide receiver now. But who would they have gotten at the bottom of the draft here? Maybe if one of those top top wide receivers had fallen down there.
Okay, I'm heading back in.
Rondale Moore, maybe.
Wow.
Guys are up.
All questions are on the board for Grill Bill, 1075thegame.com, the place to go to sign up for our contest. If we end up choosing you to join us for our weekly qualifier there with some of the best and most creative, maybe most uncomfortable questions for Bill, then you win a $50 IGA gift card. You also get qualified to win Camp Chef Pellet Grill Grand Prize for Grill Bill. That's valued at more than $1,000. Just go to, again, 1075thegame.com. Check out the contest tab there. Simple. We just ask Bill some interesting questions every week. You get to do it and join the show. Grill Bill brought to you by the South Carolina Pork Board, its member farmers, IGA Food Stores, and Camp Chef. So Bill mentioned, wanted to break down that J.C. Horn pick, number 8 overall. And Chad asked, what's y'all's biggest shock aside from J.C. Horn going number 8 Carolina Panthers? He says, I'm going Green Bay, taking a defensive back over a wide receiver. To me, that was one of the least shocking things out there, knowing Green Bay's track record. And Aaron Rodgers still has never thrown a touchdown pass to a first-round draft pick, which is crazy. Now you got all the Aaron Rodgers drama going on. I'm not buying, by the way, Bill. I know you mentioned earlier that Green Bay has come out and said, nope, they're not going to trade Aaron Rodgers. I'm not buying that necessarily. Just because it didn't happen last night doesn't mean it might not happen here in the coming days. And I don't know if that relationship's going to be able to be repaired. You mentioned the Deshaun Watson situations. I've said that about the Deshaun Watson situation. I don't think he's playing for the Houston Texans again. No, this latest legal mess that he's in, I don't know how that plays into it as well, and maybe that changes things, and he doesn't have much power anymore. That he's certainly not in the same powerful situation he was. Aaron Rodgers is in the powerful situation, and the fact that came out when it did, I think makes the Packers look like an organization that's in some disarray for sure. And I'll be surprised if we see Aaron Rodgers in a Packers uniform this year. That's where I'm at. But wanted to get into the J.C. Horn perspective. Only 4 guys all time at the University of South Carolina have been picked higher. The 2 number 1 picks in Jadeveon Clowney and George Rogers, and then 2 other guys have gone number 7 overall. Troy Williamson most recently in 2006, I believe it was. Maybe 2005. I might have that year wrong. And then Sterling Sharp back in 1988, the number 7 overall pick. It was a couple of defensive backs that are not far away from J.C. Horn that have gone on to have tremendous careers. Stephon Gilmore most recently at number 10. Also Dante Robinson, the number 10 pick back in the early 2000s, relatively early 2000s. At 2005 or 2004, I should say. So it was 04 when he was picked 10th. And then it was the next year in 05 when Troy Williamson was picked 7th. And then you had another first rounder in 06 and Jonathan Joseph. That's the last time you've gotten consecutive years of first round picks for the Gamecocks outside of the last 2 years now in Javon Kinlaw and J.C. Horn. Bill, how do you think J.C. Horn is going to be remembered from a Gamecock football perspective? Or do you think it might depend on what he does in his NFL career to kind of round out the perspective that Gamecock fans will have on him?
I could see him being remembered. I don't know. The best way I'd say is vaguely, because he had one game that really stood out. Like a defensive back, obviously, you don't notice them if they're not throwing the ball that way. And if they're not throwing the ball that way, that's because they're terrified of that defensive back. That was the part of the Auburn game where when he gets the 3 interceptions, people afterwards were like, why in the world did Bo Nix and Chad Morris keep throwing the ball at him? What were they thinking? Why would you not go to the other side of the field, to go to any other receiver? And so through no fault of his own, or actually because he's a pretty good defensive back, J.C. Horn didn't get challenged a whole lot in his 3 years at South Carolina. You don't really have a lot of memory. I mean, that Auburn game is the first time he comes up with an interception. Let's compare him to the other high draft pick, Stephon Gilmore. You know what? One of my strong memories of Stephon Gilmore, I've got 2 of them actually that stand out. One, his very first game is batting down a pass in the end zone. I think a Hail Mary at the very end against North Carolina State to preserve a wonderfully played 7-3 game. I think it was 7-3 up there in Raleigh. Like, you remember that one. And then the other one isn't even an offense. It is not even a defensive play, but it is his freshman year coming in against Clemson in the Wildcat, faking the run and stepping back and throwing the long pass down the field. I think it was was it Alshon he threw it to? I think
It was.
So, I just say that because, like, Gilmore was another really good defensive back, but two things. A, he had a few plays that really stood out over his career, and B, he was on really good football teams. So we remember that fondly. Unfortunately for J.C. Horn, he's a member of what is his career? I guess if you take out the games that he did play, what did he not play in the last 3? Is that right? He played 7 games this year, 12 last year. That's 19, 13 the year before that, 32 total games. I'm doing quick math on this. 7 plus 4 is 11 plus the 2 wins, 13 wins in his career. 13 wins at South Carolina's career. That's not, it's a team sport. It's not necessarily J.C. Horn's fault that was what happened. But there's just that memory of him. And that's why I kind of, in a way, A.J. Lawson's not going to get drafted. But A.J. Lawson was a really good basketball player for the men's basketball team. But there's no memories there of him, and he doesn't have any postseason appearances at South Carolina. He doesn't have any game-winning shots. And so I think J.C. Horn will be a guy that he'll come back. I assume he'll come back. They'll put him up on the video board during a game. People will cheer for him, but younger kids will be like, Dad, what do you remember about J.C. Horn? I don't know. He had a game against Auburn that was really good. That's about it. And then you're right. Some of it will be what he does in the NFL. Similar to, say, a Jared Cook. The best thing I remember about Jared Cook is a drop touchdown. And I said the best thing, but like my memory of Jared Cook is the drop touchdown against Auburn in 2007.
So I think in a way, because of the one notable game, J.C. Horn at least has that, and those other really good corners don't at Carolina. Like Stephon Gilmore didn't have a game like J.C. Horn had in college. Dante Robinson, Jonathan Joseph, they didn't have a game like that. I mean, I think that kind of legend will grow more, and I think J.C. Horn will continue to be remembered more fondly later on down the line than he is right now, because I think it'll be much easier to forgive the opting out at the end of the season. And I think, having seen the post-Florida Will Muschamp career, I just think that's how fans are in general, that the coach ends up bearing all the burden because you got rid of that guy. He doesn't have the relationship with the school anymore. He's gone. I think it'll be an example of, Will Muschamp, he didn't use J.C. Horn right, as opposed to during his career, which it was more appropriate to actually put it on J.C. Horn, like the pass against North Carolina was right in his hand. They just didn't make the interception in that game. And it was a source of more frustration outside of that Auburn game. J.C. Horn being in position to make plays, as opposed to giving him the credit that he deserved to actually be in the position to make the plays. It will be interesting to keep an eye on it. But I also think it will depend on how successful he is in the NFL. If he goes on to have a great career with the Carolina Panthers, I think it's easier to take pride in a guy like that and say, hey, he's our guy. And, man, he was really good in college, and his coach didn't know what he was doing. They didn't know how to use him. But it will be interesting. And it was a heck of a college career. It's just hard to evaluate, I think, just from a fan standpoint, how good a corner is while it's happening, because we don't see him involved in so much of what he's doing well. And now to have seen these guys that he went up against get drafted so high, Kyle Pitts, Jamar Chase, Jalen Waddle, Devontae Smith, all these dudes got picked in the first, 10 picks last night. Guys catching balls in the SEC recently. I think it's one of the reasons why the Carolina Panthers valued him as high as he was at number 8 last night. And now it's part of the expectation that the Carolina Panther fan base will have for J.C. Horn moving forward. When you're picked that high, you're expected to be day one starter, and certainly in the Pro Bowl conversation, be one of the better players out there. Let's see if J.C. Horn can live up to that. From everything that I've seen, everything I've heard him talk about, especially one of the things that will stick with me with J.C. Horn is even knowing what a great position he was in going into his pro day. It's like, we got to remember, this is just a draft. And ultimately, the smoke will clear, and what happens on the field will determine who are the good players. I think having his dad there in that career and that perspective as well to kind of keep him grounded is going to only help him succeed in the NFL. I think he's going to be a really good one. And it might end up being remembered more like John Abraham, Bill, a really, really good player on some bad Carolina teams, and a guy that clearly goes on to some NFL success. He has a John Abraham-like career. I think J.C. Horn would take that as he sits here today, but a long way to go to get there.
I think it's a great – John Abraham's a great comparison because I don't know if anybody remembers necessarily what he did at South Carolina. I'll throw Marcus Robinson in there as well, who went on to a pretty long NFL career with Jens Bears. But, he was a guy that didn't play on some very good South Carolina teams, but ended up having a very nice NFL career.
Yeah, but he's almost flipped to me. He's a guy that didn't have the good college career and went on to have a really good NFL career,
Right.
as opposed to guys doing it and we just don't maybe give them the credit for it or don't see it as much from the fan standpoint. The guys that you do see are those notable guys. I mean, Alabama had 6 first-round picks last night, and tying the Miami record set back in 2004 is just ridiculous. And also a relatively unnotable first round for the SEC with 12 overall picks last night. Those numbers down from what they've been in record-setting years past, but Alabama having half of those guys, I think the legend of these Alabama teams is going to continue to grow now that you see the NFL valuing those guys so much. And Devontae Smith is the most interesting to me. He and Mac Jones, I guess, both, the success they do or don't have moving forward in the NFL, going to be the most interesting to me. I would put my money on Najee Harris as the guy who has the most chance to succeed moving forward. Going to the Pittsburgh Steelers has a lot to do with that, but everything Harris does, both with the ball in his hands and in between his ears, I think how he's been evaluated is why I go with him having the most chance of success out of those 6 guys taken for Alabama or from Alabama last night in the NFL draft. But Bill, we know, and this is where guys like Patrick Perrette, who will be filling in for Pearson Fowler later on today from 12 to 4, by the way, this is tonight, a night like tonight, and then tomorrow is really where NFL organizations typically separate themselves. It's not the first round and one guy or maybe 2. It's the next handful of picks that a lot of these organizations have where they can really make a huge difference in their franchise moving forward. So keeping an eye on what happens and then what happens on the field in the next several years from those picks will really go a long way into determining where the 2021 draft is determined from the NFL organizational standpoint, I think. Want to get into a bit of a preview of Carolina baseball tonight. First pitch, 7:30 at Ole Miss. We'll do that when we come back in the big conclusion of the show. If you'd like to get in a final word, hit us up at 803-404-6100. It's the early game on 107.5 The Game.
30 million year-over-year, 7 million sequentially, and 20% annualized in Q1. And we shared that we started last. Oh, I feel pretty good right now. It's a beautiful day. The weather's going to be great all weekend. I'm actually getting out of town, but I have already prepared myself for the Columbia heat. I've made sure that the air conditioning here at the old house, ready to handle it, keep me nice and cool. I got in touch with AAA Heating and Air. They take care of me, treat me like family. Roy and Dana are fantastic to work with. They're going to treat you like family. They're going to make sure that if you've got an issue with your heating and air unit, that they will work with you to get it fixed. How about this? If there's a major issue, they will give you $1,500 savings to take away your old unit, then offer you 0% financing and no money down on a brand new unit. That right there is treating you like family. There's a family-run business. They work with people. They're happy to help. They want to make sure you and your family are comfortable, whether it's the middle of the summer or whether it's the middle of winter. Your heating and air needs to be working. Give them a phone call today. 803-677-1500. Again, 1500. Don't wait till mid-June or mid-July when the heat's cranked up and it's hot to call them. Give them a call today. Get someone out to inspect your unit. Billy came out and took care of me, checked it, found a few things. They got it fixed, and now I'm ready for the summer. You need to be as well. Again, that phone number, 803-677-1500. That's AAA Heating and Air. Give them a phone call today. Tell them Bill Gunner sent you.
Bill, can you answer Allen's question here? Look up Antonio Allen for a second. I'm going to run to the bathroom real quick.
I don't know where he's at today or what he's doing now. He's not in the league. Just look and see if there's anything on the old Twitter. There's a bunch of Antonio Allens, as you would expect. No, that's not him. I don't know what he's doing now. I mean, again, he's not in the league. He does have a Wikipedia page. Yeah, he hadn't been in the league since 2016. He was with the Jets. Went back to the Jets in 2016, but it doesn't say what he's up to now. So I don't know if he's around here or if he's back in Florida. It's a good question. Hanging out. Oh. Few more minutes, and I have got to run a whole bunch of errands. Call it a weekend. Tommy Moody hit me up and was trying to tell me, he said, don't know if it's been brought up. Trevor Lawrence was the number one pick 40 years to the day after George Rogers was the number one pick. I had to tell him, we already looked that up this week. April 28th was the day that George Rogers was picked, not the 29th. Yeah, because I messed that up already this week as well.
I heard the 2 dates, didn't know it was accurate.
Let's just, as I scroll through the old iPhone here and go back to 1981. Oddly enough, 1981, it shows April 28th as a Tuesday. Huh. The 29th was a Wednesday. That's interesting. Let's look that up for a second.
Exactly.
It seems like we've got a lot of incorrect information here. Did they used to have the draft during the week? Tim's an old guy. We could ask him.
They did used to do it conference call style. But I think it was always on just Saturday, just one day.
No, I mean, so I'm looking at my iPhone, and I'm looking at April of 1981. It says April 28th and 29th was a Wednesday and a Thursday. Or, excuse me, Tuesday, Wednesday. But you are right. Obviously, back then, I don't think it was televised. I don't think it was the event that it is now.
And
actually, it was officially known in 1981. The official title of it is officially known as the NFL Annual Player Selection Meeting. How about that?
Wow. Still too close to Vietnam at that point to call it a draft, maybe?
I don't know. Well, it's kind of interesting.
How did that come up, 81?
I got a text message from Tommy Moody telling me that it was 40 years to the day that
George
Lawrence was selected. I told because I had looked that up. I'd mentioned it on air, but I was wrong earlier this week.
Don't be questioning Tommy now.
So he responded. He said, "Gotcha." On thisday.com said April 29th, and the following year too, due to a leap year in 1980. Did they not have the draft on a Sunday? I guess not. There you go. Learning something new. All right. Hold it together for 2 more minutes.
All right, guys, we're up.
Just a quick reminder, in a couple of minutes, you'll have your second chance out of 10 today to win $100 and qualify for the grand prize jackpot of $25,000. There's $25K workday payday here on 107.5 The Game. Just text the hourly keyword 95819, those keywords from 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. Monday through Friday right here on 107.5 The Game through May 12th. Also, the Hot Take Hotline up and rolling as always. Maybe this weekend with Gamecock baseball and the NFL draft rolling along, you get a hot take all worked up, need to vent. That's what the Hot Take Hotline is for, 803-978-6654. It's sponsored by Twin Peaks for the men who never settle. Go see them down in the Vista at 600 Gervais Street. Only one lefty, Bill, in the 6 starting pitchers that are scheduled to go in this Carolina Ole Miss series. The Game 2 starter for Ole Miss is a lefty, and he's got really good numbers, 1.81 ERA. Doug Nikhazy is his name. He'll be going against Brandon Jordan tomorrow. Again, that's another primetime game, 7:30 start, I believe. I know 7:30 start tonight. It might be a 7 o'clock start on Saturday night. And then Sunday, it'll be Will Sanders, the freshman, going against another young pitcher for Ole Miss who's got a 4-0 record. He's a sophomore righty, and Drew McDaniel. So the pitching matchup is advantage Ole Miss from a starting perspective. I think they have one really good closer, I believe, pitcher out of the bullpen. So I think on paper, this thing is really evenly matched in a lot of different ways. Ole Miss maybe even with the advantage on paper going into this thing from a statistical standpoint. For instance, they got a guy hitting 345 on the season, TJ McCants. Gamecocks, I think their highest hitter is still Brady Allen, who's just a tick over 300 at this point. But we've seen time and time again, it doesn't necessarily matter what the numbers look like and where Carolina is, even in an SEC series. They've been a couple of times down late in games 2 and then battled back to not only win that game, but to win the series here. Will be interesting to see if they can do it. I'm just looking forward, Bill, to looking at a near or completely sold out stadium and to see how the Gamecock players react in that environment this weekend at City Field over in Knoxville.
As Patrick pointed out on Wednesday morning, something's got to give. Neither team has won a first game of their series since March 26th. Both won it on the same night. Neither team has won the opening game since then. Something has to give. Somebody has to win tonight.
Tonight's game, Sunday's game, SEC Network Plus, where you can watch it. You can listen to all those games right here on 107.5 The Game. 7:30 first pitch tonight, 7 o'clock on Saturday, and 12:30 on Sunday. That'll do it for us in the post-draft show. Patrick Perrette helping to fill in for Pearson Fowler. Plenty more draft knowledge coming your way this afternoon right here on 107.5 The Game. All right, guys, that'll do it. You good?
I'm good. Everybody good? Good job, everybody.
Yeah, exactly, Bill. Enjoy the beach, Craig says, and happy early birthday.
Exactly.
Thank you. 39. I feel like
Watch
I'm
out.
59, but that's okay.
Watch out, Rand.
we're gonna watch out for those sea worms. I did end up looking those things up to see what exactly was going on.
They're ugly little things.
Why would you
But I
do
think
that?
they're in areas where the water's not like not on the beach where the water's crashing and the tide is, coming in and out. I don't think it looks like they're more of like in a marsh or something where you'd be jumping off a dock or something.
Okay. We'll expect
So
a
I
full
think it'll
report.
be safe. I think it'll be safe for the kids to get in the water, not dad, but the kids. Of course, it's also 65 degrees in the water, so I wouldn't be getting in anyway.
No, sir. Mm-mm.
Good call. So you're off Monday, Tuesday, back with us Wednesday, and then in for Heath Thursday, Friday, right?
That is correct.
Wow.
All right, you guys
Good sandwich.
hit up Bill on Twitter if you want to talk to him. Man, that's what I just got. If you want to talk to him anytime before Wednesday, that's the spot.
Yeah, anytime before Wednesday. Twitter's the way to reach me.
Guys, thanks for hanging with us on the live stream, especially those of you who did it last night and this morning. Impressive.
No kidding.
For sure. We'll do some more.
Thank you. Thank you, Anthony.
Talk to you Monday morning here on the live stream.
You're back.